Good morning, everybody. Appreciate y'all being here this morning. We're going to go ahead and get started. Just some housekeeping before I pray and introduce our guest speaker. Just want to welcome you here to Hillcrest Baptist Church. My name is Trent Haywood. I get to be the pastor here at Hillcrest Baptist Church. If you're not part of the church family, we'd love to have you here on Sunday mornings at 11 o'clock Baptist Standard Time. I think we got some music playing. I don't know why. But hey, some ambiance. But just some housekeeping. So we've got breakfast items. We've got bars and cookies and all that kind of stuff. Coffee. Be welcome to go up there and grab anything you like at any time. But be sure to go ahead and find your seat. We've got some group activities that'll be part of this presentation in just a moment. So if y'all want to group together at some of the tables, there'll be some group activities that we'll participate in. Bathrooms are located down this hallway directly in front of me. Women's and men's restrooms there. Be sure to silence your cell phones. That way we can make sure that everybody can hear very well. We're not going to be distracted too much. We are live streaming this event as well for people watching live and for anybody who wants to watch this later and see this incredible presentation. We know that suicide is an epidemic that is often not talked about in our community, especially not in what we may call the faith community or the church community. And as a pastor, I believe it is something that we ought to bring to the forefront and talk about and not be afraid to speak out about, because often we talk about it too late, after the fact. And many of y'all have possibly been affected by this, lost a loved one to suicide, or perhaps have even contemplated that yourself. And so I appreciate everybody taking the time to be here and to equip yourselves to not only help yourselves, but help your loved ones, those around us who may be suffering and struggling in silence. And so I greatly appreciate everyone's participation in being here today. I'm going to pray really quick, and then I'll introduce our guest speaker and let her have the floor for her presentation. Let's pray together. Gracious Heavenly Father, God, we come to you this morning. Thank you for a beautiful morning to gather today. And God, for this purpose, Lord, to talk about the fact that life matters. And God, life matters because it matters to you. You made us fearfully and wonderfully in your image, God. And every single human being of every tribe, race, nation, color, gender, every single human being is of value and of worth and deserves to live. God, we pray that today we would be equipped. God, that you would speak through Kim and our panel discussion participants and through all those who are here to help equip us to help our loved ones in need, to help them know that they are not alone in their suffering, in their struggling, in their depression, in their anxiety, in the things that weigh them down. And God, I thank you that you said your burden is easy, your yoke is light, and we can come to you and have rest for our souls in the name of Jesus. And so it's in his name that I pray, and I pray you bless our time together today. Amen. All right, at this time, it is my pleasure and honor to introduce our key speaker. Her name is Kim Franco. She is part of One Common Bond. Okay, and we've got a bio here, so I got some more info. So, Ms. Kimberly Franco, can I call you Kim? Yep. Is a retired military police captain with over 23 years of service. We thank you for your service. Thank you so much. In her 22nd year of service, she lost her brother to suicide and retired from the military to pursue full-time work in the field of suicide prevention and awareness. So this is very near and dear to her heart. In 2013, she began work as the Suicide Prevention Program Manager for the U.S. Army Reserve with the responsibility of serving over 200,000 soldiers, civilians, and family members across the United States, Europe, Asia, and the Caribbean. Kimberly founded One Common Bond to meet the needs that were not addressed by the military or civilian sectors, helping families after a suicide loss. The name signifies that grief is a common bond that connects us all and stands by their motto that no one should go on the grief journey alone. One Common Bond provides grief support materials and suicide prevention training nationwide. Kimberly has a passion for addressing audiences great and small to normalize the topic of self-care with the mission to build resilient communities and stop suicides. I'll give a warm welcome to Ms. Kim Franco.
Quick show of hands, how many of you have ever been to a suicide prevention training before? be a little different probably than one that you've ever done in the past. If you did not get a note sheet here, actually I'm going to put these over there at that table. If anybody new comes in, just say, hey, go grab one of those sheets. Because we definitely want you to take some notes as you give me another one. Oh, thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so that was the bio that told everything about me, but what we're going to do is jump right into class, and I want to learn a little bit more about you all. So we're going to talk about suicide. It can be a very difficult topic to talk about and to hear sometimes. We don't know who in the room has ever had experience with this. So we're going to be respectful that, people in this room may have emotional outbursts. It's okay. There's tissues on the tables, and that means it's okay to cry here. You're in a safe space where you have a lot of folks in this room. We've got the pastor here and the team that can take you out, to another room if you want to talk or something like that. But I encourage you to just listen, and if you have emotions, just know that this is the place to talk about it, because you're probably not going to have too many rooms in the city or around that's going to say, hey, this is this place where we're going to come talk about suicide. So feel free to do that today. That is, it's a safe space. And this is a no judgment space. So while we are on the grounds of a church, it's okay for you to be real with your feelings. If you have an opinion, it's okay to say it, and it may not be the same as the people sitting to the left or right of you. That's okay. We're all here to learn from each other and respect that we have different opinions on many things. This is my hello. We all bring value to this class, so you heard my bio. It was a long one. I don't even know where that came from, but thank you. But we're going to go into introductions, and what I like to do is to learn who's in the room. So we are all going to have an opportunity to speak. I'd like for you guys to tell us a little bit about yourself. And because this is a faith-based class, what I would like for you to do in your introduction is just to tell us your name, however you like to say it. Mine's Kim. Hey, my name is Kim. And tell us your faith background. So, hi, I'm Kim. I come from a family of ministers, mom, dad, grandpa, uncle, aunt. Like everybody in my family is a minister, and we're from the Baptist religion. That's how I grew up. Because I want to kind of get an idea of who we have in the room. All faith is not the same. So I want to find out who you are and where you come from. And then if you'd like to tell me what you want to gain from this class, you can do that too. No pressure. I know we just started. But as we go along, you'll all have an opportunity to speak. So we're going to go ahead. You can go help me.
Yeah,
thank you.
Okay. Well, my name's Trent, and I'm a Christian First Baptist Second. What was the questions again? I'm sorry. I was trying to make sure I had something for everybody else.
Here's what not to do.
Right.
Tell me, you're a Christian First Baptist Second. Do you want to tell us anything you wish to gain from this class?
So I want to know as a pastor how I can better serve those who are struggling with depression, suicidal ideation, how I can better equip them to know that they're loved, that they're not alone, that God loves them, that Jesus died for them, that there is hope through whatever they're experiencing, the emotions that they're feeling, and that suicide is not the answer to their struggles.
Hello, my name is Angela Hebel, and I recently graduated with a master's in public health. My background is my parents are Church of Christ, but I wasn't really raised in the church. What I hope to gain from this is a lot more knowledge, how to be support, red flags, and all that. Especially as I have 2 kiddos at home, and it seems like I just read more and more articles all the time of young children committing suicide, and so I just hope to just to learn more, and also maybe learn how to not only support, but things to say in the moment, because I know sometimes we just don't always know what to say, and especially this topic can be a really, really big deal. It literally is life and death.
I'm Nicole. I'm a Baptist here at Hillcrest Baptist. I've been a Christian 3 years now. I'm very new to it. I'm in there. And I'm here today. You're welcome.
Stephanie Hendricks, attend here Hillcrest Baptist. Thought I was a Christian many, many years ago, but really dove into it and really truly gave my life about 3 years ago as well. I took this class to kind of know a faith-based answer or like what to say to, and it's kind of just hit closer over the last year because some young baby friends of mine, younger ones, have been struggling and just want to be able to kind of see it and be there if I can.
So my name is Desiree Chavez. I also go to church here at Hillcrest. Religion wasn't really strong growing up, so this is something I've done more in my adult life. And I am hoping to just be able to recognize people that are struggling and find ways to help.
Good morning. I am Daphne. Grew up and raised in the church Baptist. I just want to feel more confident if ever approached. And I know since COVID and other issues are going around that more people are in depression and struggling. So I want to be approachable, and if I am approached, to be confident in doing that.
I'm Chaplain Hal Thacker, and I grew up on my mom's side. I was raised primarily in the Moravian church. On my dad's side, Baptist church, so I've got a blend of both. It was real solid on one side, and you're almost getting beat over the head in the Bible with the other side. But now I'm a non-denominational follower of Jesus. I go to Rockfish Church, and the reason I'm here, I want to be able to, I watch too many soldiers in my unit, outside of my unit. We're losing about 42 a day to suicide. And then now the last 18 years, I've been working with Army Junior ROTC at the high school level. I'm starting to see a trend on our high school campuses. So I want to be able to be more confident in intervening early on to maybe, I'm going to use a term, just talk them off the ledge and get them back to their worth, their value, and whatever social media is saying about them, it doesn't really matter. Dealing with teenagers, everything matters to them, as we know. We've all been one, we're just not inundated like our young folks are now.
Good morning. My name is Elda Thacker, and I just finished with IFOC chaplain. I'm not chaplain yet until I turn on my paperwork. I'm a follower of Jesus for 30 years, and I have a bachelor's degree in psychology and half of the master on counseling. And I would like to learn more about this because I would like to help a lot of young and older that is suffering from this. This is very important.
Thank you. Did you happen to be in that class with a girl who looked like me but was about this short? That was my cousin. She told me about you guys.
Okay.
My name is Dawn Marie and grew up in the Catholic Church. When I got older, came over to the Baptist. I struggle. My oldest daughter struggles, and just need to have additional information on what we can do to get through each day. Actually lost a cousin to suicide, and yeah, it's just very close to me.
Hi, I'm Miss Irma. I grew up in a Christian home, Baptist. I was, one of my jobs in the school system was a crisis counselor for special ed kids. And I have had suicide training in the 70s. I'm old, I've forgotten. And, but in the 80s, one of my children attempted suicide. Luckily, thank the Lord, it didn't take and he's very prosperous today. And I just see a trend. There for a while, I didn't have many children in my life, you know, around worrying me at church or whatever. Now there just seem to be a whole lot running around, and they're teenagers, and I just want to be prepared if there's a need.
Hi, my name is Patty. I was born and raised Catholic, and then I came to the Baptist church. As Dawn is my daughter, and as she said that we have I have a nephew that passed from suicide. I have 9 grandchildren, and 2 greats that are living, and there's so much need now to really understand and know what's going on in the world and know how to approach them and know how to speak to them where they're going to listen, where there's not going to be an immediate wall because you're an adult. You know, I want to be able to be there for them if they need it, and I want to know what some of the signs are, some of the red flags. I want to be more aware.
If you can pass it right behind you to that table, right behind you.
So my name is Dylan. I attend Aaron Lake Baptist Church. I, growing up, was in and out of church, made excuses not to go, but on a mission trip in 2019 to Atlanta, got saved and been on fire ever since. And so I work with students a lot, and believe it or not, they have issues, and they go through things, and they have mental health issues, and just, I know some people have took their lives, so just today, just how can I better help them? How can I better guide them and just be the light to them?
I'm Danny McDonald. I'm worship pastor at Aaron Lake Baptist Church. Served there for 22 years. I was going to church 9 months before I was born. Grew up in a small church in South Georgia. The accent gives you away. Sorry. Was actually in ministry for 11 years before I became a believer in Jesus Christ. Actually connected. I knew about God, just didn't know God personally. There's a big difference. Been in music ministry now for 44 years and have experienced a lot of suicide in different churches that I've served in. Personally, I had a brother that committed suicide about 15 years ago, and just wanting to learn how, as a pastor, how to maybe see the signs, detect the signs, and be able to minister to our people, not just to the individuals, but also to the families in the aftermath, because it just doesn't affect the individual; it affects the entire family. Learned that from firsthand experience. So just glad to be here and to see what we can learn today.
Hey, I'm Doc. I also go to Aaron Lake Baptist Church. Suicide awareness, part of the Recovery Alive. I'm a male leader at Recovery Alive, and this is just one piece of the puzzle for the mental health issues that we constantly see coming through the doors of church. And I want to be better equipped to recognize, intervene, get the help that they need, get them in the right direction, be a support system for the many that are struggling. But most importantly, this is for my 17-year-old daughter and my 20-month-old son. I want to be able to make sure that my family's safe, and I recognize those signs if they happen. So, thank you.
So my name is Jamie Rich. I grew up in a house where my parents were both believers, but we never attended church. So I found myself as a young teenager all the way up to my mid-30s being addicted to drugs and alcohol, and which led to depression and all kinds of things. That came to, in the end, I never went to church, but the last time I got arrested, got out of jail, I was contemplating suicide, and my wife was there for me, and I wasn't going to church. She took me to Aaron Lake Baptist Church, introduced me to one of her pastors. I shared my story with him. He shared his story with me, which was Jesus, and got saved that day, February 11, 2004, and I now am one of the pastors at Aaron Lakes that works with recovery, mostly Recovery Alive.
My name name's Joe. I'm a person in long-term recovery, 17 years of sobriety, and after a lifetime of no religion or no relationship, no God in my life, a life filled with violence, drugs, and alcohol, and all that, I was radically saved in 2007, and have been plugged into the Christ Center recovery process ever since. So I serve on the Recovery Alive national team, and as somebody who's experienced suicidal ideology, and see that substance abuse and suicidal ideology kind of coexist more often than not, I want to be part of the solution. I just want to be able to help folks that need help.
Go to Christ, so I work alongside my husband as ministry leader, Recovery Alive. We just switched recently.
Several different things, and now I'm Baptist. My husband did pass away in December, and I've been praying to God that He would bring something in my life that I could volunteer for, so that's why I'm here.
Hi, my name is Susan. I grew up in a Methodist church, and I started Hillcrest in 2012. I come today to just get information and see if someone has the signs that I can help.
My name is Megan. I am born and raised Jewish. I am here because I have experience with it in my own personal life, and also I guess I hope to gain maybe tools to help teach people within the faith-based community how to recognize signs and what to do and see.
I'm Joe. I was raised in a dual Christian home, so one Catholic and one very Southern Baptist church. I'm a Reformed Christian. I kind of follow a universal faith. I'm also a youth minister, I won't say youth minister, but a youth leader and a youth serving organization that deals with mental health as well, bringing more mental health awareness to our youth for tomorrow's leaders with Scouts BSA. I've actually witnessed 3 people have committed suicide as a colleague, and I'm just here to support the cause.
Good morning. My name is Keisha Wright. I am from right outside of Orlando, Florida. I heard about this and extended my trip just to come here and learn more about what you guys are doing in the community as far as suicide awareness. I have a nonprofit, a trauma wellness center, and so we check people out of life and we teach them how to deal and heal with hurt, pain, and trauma. And so anything that I can learn to help that cause is, especially faith-based, is amazing. I grew up in a Christian home. I also feel like I started going to church 9 months before I got here. But we have worked with people, multiple people who at the end of our clinics hand over suicide letters. And sometimes you don't really know where people are until it's too late. So anything that I can learn and gain from recognizing signs and symptoms, I feel like, especially from a faith-based organization, is always, always beneficial.
Good morning. I am Kendra Danzer. I was born and raised Catholic. Went to a Catholic school, so I went to church 3 days a week all through high school as well. I do not go to church anymore. However, still Christian, believe in God. But I am here to support colleagues, to learn, to connect with the faith community, and also be a connector, because I know that even if I'm not the person that people want to connect with in the faith community, I need to know people who they can connect with. So that is my hope today.
Good morning, I'm Alana Shepherd. I grew up Methodist. Currently, I am not going to church, and I'm struggling a little bit with my religion due to some lived experiences that has happened. I am here today because suicide prevention is my lifeblood and it's something I'm extraordinarily passionate about. And anytime I have the opportunity to learn something new from someone else, I absolutely do take it.
Good morning, I'm Lorraine Landry, and I've been following Christ most of my life, and I have a son in law enforcement, so I'm here to equip myself for God to use me in any way possible, just to encourage him with things he may have seen or will see in the future. And my sister recently, a few years ago, lost her husband to suicide, so I'm just here to equip myself.
So the last two, what we're doing in our introductions is just telling us names and then what your background is for faith, because it's a faith-based class, just so we know who's.
Hi, I'm Vivian, Southern Baptist. I'm from Michigan. I'm up here visiting, actually working at the base. And this is my best friend. We've been on each other for years. She's like, hey, you wanna go to the, yes, I'll go. But, I'm here to learn. I haven't experienced any suicide prevention within or around me, but I work for the government, so as you know, it happens. So I'm glad to be here.
Good morning, my name is Lisa. I am a military spouse, retired. I work out on the base, and so we attend church on base. So I grew up in a Christian home, but I guess I'm Protestant because I grew up in the military, and that's the services we attended. My parents were Baptist. I still attend church on post. I go to JFK Chapel, which we are a faith community congregation, and I'm out here to support my colleagues and to always learn different ways, because as my buddy, or we say battle buddy, as she said, just in our community alone, walking on Fort Liberty and in our community, there's so many veteran-connected families that we have an opportunity to speak life into spiritually, and maybe it'll start with listening to their stories about what's going on in their life and being able to ask the right questions, connect with the right resources to move them in a direction to cherish life. And so that's why I'm here. Glad to be here.
Okay, so I'm gonna get you doorkeeper and you lady in the back row.
I thought I was going out of it. So, my name is Lori Stone, and I attend here at Hillcrest Baptist Church. I've been a Christian since 16, and I signed up to work. I love people, but it's amazing who God puts together in this room. Listening to your stories, where we all come from, we all have ups and downs. We're all on a journey. We face people every day, and I just want to learn more, because each person is important. And as we go throughout the community, you know, we see such sadness a lot of times, and sometimes just a smile to someone to say I'm important to you matters. And so I'm hoping that we all learn more today. So thank you.
Morning, everybody. My name is Tara Tucker. I'm a behavioral health community paramedic with Cape Fear. So our team actually focuses on people with mental health and substance use issues. Obviously, we have a lot of 911 calls that are related to suicide. So I'm always about learning more. Grew up in a Christian school my entire life, church 3 times a week. and really saw some things in the faith community that concern me. You know, I feel like my job is to love on people, and that's all people. I signed up as a paramedic to help everybody, not just certain people. So my Christian school was a very small class. Our graduating class was 43. One of the guys from that graduating class ended up in the military, ended up with an injury, addicted to opioids, eventually died by suicide. And died by suicide in the jail, so sometimes I feel like even our own failed people, right, and the system fails people. But just remember some of the things that were said at his funeral that just felt really harsh to me because of some of the biases I think that we have in the faith community. So I'm on a mission to try to raise some awareness and, you know, have people like Kim come together and teach us some more about some of the stigma and some of the really understand. I think this is a subject that's often misunderstood. So.
Thank you, Tara. Lori, can you grab a note sheet for him, please? Sure. Thank you. Okay, so what's your name, sir? What's the first name? What's your name?
Bob.
You go Bob. I like you, Bob. Okay, so we just did our introductions and we were waiting on you. We say the best for last, Bob.
It was an hour and a half drive. So.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tell us where you came from.
Durham.
Oh. Who's furthest away? No, maybe not. Well, you're here for work. You're here for work. That doesn't count. Bob is from Durham. Okay. Are you faith-based? What's your faith background? Just curious. We just talked about Baptist. Okay. But there you go. You passed the test. Okay. So now we're gonna go right into the slides here. So as we go, you guys do have notes. I ask that you take notes. There's a couple of spots where you can write additional things. There's another notepad back there if you say, hey, this little piece of paper is not going to cut it for me because I really like writing a lot of notes. There's notepads back there as well as pens too. So what we're going to do, let's talk about what we're going to learn. We're going to talk about the impact of suicide. This is suicide prevention class. While we're here, I want us to do some self-assessment because you may not have actually thought about what you think about in the past, but we want to have a moment to say, okay, how do I really feel about this? And am I adding to the problem? We're going to talk about applying your faith in suicide prevention, and then we're going to go through what's called the 4 R's. Now, what you'll find as we go through this course is that, while I told you my background is my whole family is like a church in itself, and we have a family reunion, things like that, but I'm not going to be here throwing scripture at you. I'm not going to hit you upside the head with the Bible, or it's not a church service. We're going to see how we can mingle faith and the word and our religious backgrounds with suicide prevention, because it's key to ensure that we have a good balance on that. And then we're going to have some time for group discussion. We're going to have to be a recap of everything we've learned, and then it's going to have some resources on the back. So you guys will have that to take away with you when you leave today. And then also you're going to have access to the online content. So with this class, I typically teach it for 3 or 4 hours, more closer to the 4 side. So there's some content that was taken out just for today's event because we're doing this with a training, and then we're also going to have a panel. So that's a special thing you guys are going to have for today. If you'd like to go and say, hey, I want to get some more refresher, or hey, I want to go find out what's on that other online content, you can go to the to our website, that poster back there in the back. You can just take a picture of it. If you go to my website, you can see there's a link of somebody on a computer. Click that little link and it'll take you straight to the free training. That way you can go ahead and get refresher training if you'd like to. Now we do have our first thing we're going to jump right into. Notice there's a little time there. Notice there's little bubbles. That means we're going to do a group exercise. And for this one, I'd like to get a group together. So if you, Bob, can join the ladies here, and then if you two could join with them as well, that you guys are a group, and each of the other tables are groups. You two are you're working today? Okay, so you can join them with them over there. What I would like for you to do is look at here. We have this triangle right here signifies someone who's not likely at all to die by suicide. Then the circle over here identifies the people who are possible. Like, oh, absolutely, yeah, they would be people who would likely die by suicide. This exercise, the reason behind it is my vision as Christian Kim, as African American Kim, as daughter of Sarah and Thad, the minister. My mother was a nurse, my father was a police. We lived in the church. I was 9 months in the womb in the church. For me to see my brother, even though he had every sign and I knew that from my military experience, I couldn't see him, I always kept him in this triangle over here because of who I knew him to be. So even though the signs were there, I overlooked them because it can't happen to us because we don't fit the mold. I want you to go ahead and think about people that you may be trapping into this triangle, and think about the circle. And as a team, as a table, I'd like you guys to have that discussion. You have 3 minutes to talk about this, so it's 9:37 on my clock. You have 4 minutes until 9:40. Go ahead and talk about who is likely and who's not likely.
What did you say?
Right, like
Yes, it's getting younger. That's our mentality. It was not my
I don't
mentality.
think cognitively 5-year-old has the reasoning skills like what he's talking about to make that decision. I am not happy and things are not going well. There's no way. Your brains are just not functioning. Exactly. So
Yeah, well, even the teenagers with the influence all the way in.
right. Yeah, but I knew that like we're seeing, I knew 2 statistics we're seeing like 9 and up. It's usually where our age range is. They are at a young age.
Well, and they're being exposed to more neglect and abuse. That's another big. And that changes everything.
Absolutely.
It's all
It does. 100%. Yeah, I don't think, I really truly don't think that they're, unless they're a newborn, I don't think that they're right, like maybe 0 to 2 to 3, maybe.
1 minute, please.
I think once they can start processing thought, they might just not be happy.
Not only that, I think the culture in which younger children are exposed to, rather than maybe shooting or whatever, they don't see death as a permanent, like, you know, they don't understand it as being permanent. Like, I can kill you now, it's on, get back up again. It has changed the process of how problem solve and finding solutions. It's a fantasy. It's a different perspective.
still talking. It's okay, I like that. It's great that, if I see the flow's going, you guys are having a good dialogue, I might let it go a little bit longer. We just won't do that every time. Okay, so let's go ahead back here, Pastor, your table. Can you all share somebody who was in your triangle?
We thought that really not a lot of people would fit into that because typically the person who commits suicide a lot of times is by surprise for everyone else, and that person sort of puts on a facade of happiness either for the sake of everyone else, so they don't feel down because they're down, or they're afraid of what others might think if they come out and say that they're having these types of thoughts.
So you didn't even put you in that triangle? You're not in the triangle? Because you're a pastor. I mean, pastors have never died by suicide. Right? A lot of people would look at you and say, nah, he couldn't either one. But we do know that happens. So we don't want to put pastors in that, not likely at all. And typically when I teach this with a non-religious group, they put pastors over there in chaplains. They really do. So I know there's a lot of pressure on chaplains and people in ministry because people just look at you and assume, oh no, they're good. We don't even have to check up on them because they're good. So yes, thank you for that. Now let's go to the circle over here. We'll start with this table right here. Just give us one that you had in the circle.
What I tend to see is someone who's very outgoing, will do everything to make you laugh, do things for you, take all the attention away from them.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we do see that a lot. Who's an example? Anybody know of an example? We see stuff in media. Robin Williams, yeah. That one definitely was a shocker. Yeah, he would have been over here in this triangle for me. I would have thought about him over here, but that wasn't the case. Okay, let's go back here to the table back here. Can you tell me one of the ones you have in the very possible in the circle?
Well, we didn't break it up like that, but in our conversations, like truly I think anyone is possible because we don't know what tragedy is around the corner or life circumstance, so it's
Or what they've been through and hiding. So I think anybody could be very possible.
Okay. Let's go table in the back.
For not likely, we put babies. Very possible anyone else, because we know that life can change in a minute and any of us can find ourselves in a bad place.
Okay. Okay. Let's go over here. What was your discussion on the not likely at all?
So we were talking about cognitive development within children, and I think we decided on like 6.
Age of reasoning is kind of the term we use because it's specific to the ability to process information and decision making. So the age of reasoning is kind of where we
fell
capped at, but that could differ depending on the person.
Okay. And we also talked about there's more kids being exposed to abuse and neglect and trauma effects that brain development.
Oh yeah. Okay. Did you guys have, did you guys have one for not likely at all?
We said church leaders and younger children.
Okay, okay. Good. So it's good to have the dialogue to think, okay, am I capturing myself in this triangle? Because if I had this class just before September 23rd, 2011, I probably would have thought differently and about my brother and all the signs he was having. So I want to make sure that you all don't put yourself into the wrong frame of thinking. Now, suicide has a very large impact. The numbers change a lot, so these might be off today. But it's generally around the same. We lose about 134 people in the United States every day. In 2023, we had more than 50,000 suicides. That's more than we've had any other year that they've recorded suicides. And the age ranges fluctuate. Right now, we know that we have the fentanyl crisis, so that's kind of jumping up as far as our death rates. But suicide is still remaining one of the higher ones. And we do know that we've seen children as young as ages of 8 years old that have died by suicide. I've met a couple of mothers that have lost their, 2 mothers that lost 8-year-old sons to suicide. So we don't want to look at just the ages like that. That's why it's very important. I'm not sure if you all had a chance to look at the table back there, but There are some gun locks back there and some other materials, but suicide prevention and gun awareness, gun safety go hand in hand. Because while you may be fine and well, the people in your household may not be. So just know that we're not teaching on that today, but it is coupled together with suicide prevention, and there are resources on that back table. If you need any others, we can always get together with your pastor and bring some for you too, sir. If you want to know about those statistics, you can always go to the CDC's website. That's where I go to pull my information. That's kind of the hub for the United States. So let's talk about that impact. It impacts approximately 135 people. Now, the way that impacts is, of course, we know the immediate family is impacted very much, and a few people here in the room have spoken how their immediate family was impacted by that. Your coworkers are impacted. Imagine if you go to work every day and you have a person that sits in the cubicle next to you and all of a sudden they're not there. It'll have an impact on you. Even as an employer, you might say, okay, when is it an okay time to rehire for this position? Because we need the person, we need somebody here working, and is it too soon to hire? Is it not too soon? A lot of struggles might be going on in the mind of those coworkers. Neighbors can be impacted by this, not seeing your neighbors show up and the different things, whatever your community is like. Or sometimes what I've seen is that a loss might happen in a neighborhood and someone says, you know what, I didn't even know them. And they're impacted because they feel guilty because they didn't know them. So you never know how that can go. We talked about how we see it in youth, and you guys are seeing it more in the younger generation. Imagine how those classmates feel if there's a suicide. I know my son did have an impact from a young man that took his life at his school, middle school. And my son and I went to the funeral, and that was very difficult, seeing a room was packed out with all these young kids trying to process suicide. So it's very difficult. So who else could be impacted by suicide loss in the community? Anyone want to share who else could be affected or how?
First responders.
First responders, okay. Clergy. Yeah, you're IFOC over here, so that's kind of your lane where you're going to be, and you may be called to have to react to that. So it's important to make sure that you take care of yourselves, because self-care is very important. Who else could be affected by suicide in the community? Yes, ma'am.
Emergency staff in the hospital.
Absolutely.
Physicians.
Yeah.
The community itself is impacted, honestly. Specifically where the event occurred, public roadway. I've seen it personally, in my own career. So.
Media, people reporting on suicide death.
Absolutely, yeah.
Community, the regular community people who encounter someone who died by suicide, the librarian who normally checks your books, clerk at the store who, it comes with their line.
Yeah, it spreads so far. So we look at that 135 people. It's probably a whole lot more than that because you don't know. We recently had a murder-suicide in our community here in Bayville, and the lady that was killed, and her husband killed him, took his life. My son is good friends with their nephew. So he called me up and said, Mom, and I do cry too. I got it. He called me up and said, hey Mom, I need to talk to you. My friend's having a hard time. And I asked him about what's going on. And he said, well, his aunt just was killed, and his uncle's the one who did it, and he's struggling a lot. My son's 14. So to hear him, he knows what I do. So he's like, Mom, I need you to help this family. And I'm like, let's go. We went to the office, grabbed the grief care packages, and got them together, and we drove in the storm the other night to take it to the mom, because the mom lost her sister. And my son connected me to that family. So you never know how the impact's going to happen, but the important thing is that you know where the resources are. And I like so many of you that have said, hey, I'm here to find the resources, because One Common Bond is a resource. We do grief support. That's all I do every day, all the time. So for me, I do self-care, just so you know. I go on vacations, and sometimes I check out and I'm away, but those little things like that will impact me. So now I have to consciously say, okay, hey Michael, how's your friend? What are you doing to help your friend? So now my son's reading grief books so that he can know how to better support his friend. And that's what it takes. It takes a community to come together because, so many people can have an impact by suicide. You just don't know what that reach is. Okay, so we're gonna, take a 10-minute break. Let me see. 2 minutes off. Okay, so we're gonna take a 10-minute break. If you can get in here in 8 minutes, that'd be good. We'll just jump right on in and keep going. We do have refreshments in the back and coffee. And I'm just gonna hang out up here, for anybody that wants to talk, and I thank you all for your attention so far.
So what I just read on
If I was back in the past. And that's roughing it. That's roughing it. It's hard to express. Because on the one hand, I understand the preacher side. The sermon may be not there to necessarily for you to enjoy. Hopefully it's not boring. You know, hopefully it's engaging. Yeah, I think it's nice.
She was a model at one time, right? Wasn't she a model at one time for Maybe Silly Swan?
Yeah, so in the
Dark hair, long dark hair. Yeah, I know her. Yes. Yes.
He proposed to her on Saturday, and then Monday we got here. Lady Cloud, he's gonna do about 45, 25.
It's crazy. Yep, it's crazy. No, you don't.
She's actually stepping out of the parenting school. She'll be working at the high point.
Okay.
And so I think the stress of it kind of got to her.
It does. It does.
And that's the thing that bothers me sometimes. I know you have to.
I've been doing it for over 25 years. I started my first responder in '98. So almost 30 years altogether when you add up my first responder. Got started as a volunteer fire.
You know, then she'd come home really quiet. I mean, she'd
Ladies and gentlemen, my cue for you at the break of doors, which is song stops playing. So when the music stops, that means break's over. For too long, but we do want to have an opportunity to talk about the church's role. So up here, there are a couple of questions posed, and I'm going to allow y'all, I'm going to say the questions, give you a couple minutes to let it sink in. I'm not going to call you out, so if you want to speak to it, you can. So the first question, should the church advocate for mental health care? And if that's a yes or no question, but I need you to tell me how we're going to make that happen. The second one is, what role does the church have in combating suicide? What role does the church have? I can tell you my experience, personally from my Baptist background, was we never talked about suicide, we never heard about suicide, and after I lost my brother, no one really reached out to us because they didn't know what to say or do. And that was not the right answer. So we got to do better. Third question, what can the church do to encourage their members to seek mental health care? The churches, I haven't seen a whole lot, they're getting better, but not all of them do that. So what can the church do to encourage their members to get mental health care? So So we'll go back to that first one. Should the church advocate for mental health care? And if so, how can they do that? Anyone want to talk about how the church can do that? Prayer? Okay, go ahead, ma'am.
Have programs like this.
Yeah.
Have programs like this.
Absolutely. Opening up your doors, so there you go. Okay, anyone want to talk on that? Or support group?
Support groups, like anything.
Okay, yeah, having support groups. Have you been to a church that has a support group?
No.
No, okay.
Yes.
So there we go, we have a need. Support groups, yes.
I have one, a church that actually has a support group. They also have a licensed Christian counselor on staff as well.
Okay. So a church with a counselor on staff, so that's good. We got a couple prayer with that mental health care too, because it's very important that we get both aspects of that. Okay, so what role does the church have in combating suicide? What are your thoughts?
It is the church's responsibility to combat suicide.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is something that, I might be out of line in saying it, by and large, my experience, the church does not know how to deal with hurt, pain, and trauma like that. And so because of their ignorance as a whole, they sit back and don't know what to do. But I do believe it is the church's responsibility to become educated on knowing how to combat suicide.
A lot of that has to do with denomination too.
Denomination, yeah. Let me go ahead and hand it here, because
No,
I'm gonna be his spokesperson. He said a lot of it depends on denomination, those Air Force guys. And what else? What denominations do you think are?
Like Catholics, believe it's a sin. You know, that they'll go to hell if you commit suicide.
Okay.
You know, they're not gonna comfort you after the fact.
Yeah, we've seen, yes ma'am. Right.
Well, you know, this is Faith Based Today. We as followers of Christ, I'm going to say, we think that our life should be perfect because we are Christ followers. But the same things happen in our lives as non-believers. But we come into the door on Sunday mornings as if life is great, I'm not having a bad day, and per se we almost, I don't like the word lie, but we lie to one another about how great our lives are. And we have our, like that commercial, you put your mask on for an hour or two, and everybody thinks everyone is great. But our families are falling apart, or we've lost a loved one, so it's like, before the church can reach, I think the church inside needs to how to be real with one another and learn things like this, support each other, that, cause life is hard sometimes.
Well, I'll just say this as a pastor for many years. We have to put on the heart and the mind of Christ. And the scripture tells us that Christ was moved with compassion.
Yes.
There's a difference between pity and compassion. The Bible says he was moved with compassion, which means you got to do something about it. You have to take the initiative. People don't want to feel pity. They want to feel, it's an old saying, but I'll say it again. They don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People just want to know that there's somebody out there who loves them. And, they may be struggling, and to come with them without judgment and just saying, listen, I may not understand where you're at right now, but I want to help you find a better place. And we have to take that initiative. And sadly, there are many churches who are not doing that. And I'm glad to be in a church like that has Recovery Alive, that helps people, meet people where they are. That's what Jesus did. He met people where they were, but he loved them too much to leave them there. He said, listen, there's a better way, and I want to help alleviate those roadblocks, meet you where you are, and then lead you. You can't lead somebody out until you get down there where they are.
Yeah, thank you for that, and bringing up that part about judgment, because that's what happens often in the church. We go by the Bible, and we say, you shall not, you shall not, you shall not. And we we put that persona out there that, hey, you can't do anything wrong, you gotta be perfect, and we're not.
I grew up in a church where I was taught, if you commit suicide, you automatically go to hell. And that is not, I can't find scripture.
That's not
There's
true.
one thing that sends a person to hell.
I love that you brought that up, we're gonna talk about that again, a lot. Yeah, so the church is absolutely, they have a responsibility to speak about mental health care and to support before and after suicides. That's why One Common Bond came about, because I said it's not right that our church didn't reach out. Now, my mother is a minister. I shared that. So imagine if you're the minister at church and your people that are coming to your church say, "Oh, she lost her son to suicide." They didn't know how to minister to her, and she went through guilt, feeling like, "Okay, am I not a good Christian? Should I even be a pastor? I lost my own son." So there was a whole lot of conflict that went through there, and there wasn't a lot of support from the church. So we've got to do a better job of making sure when we get up every morning, we're all people with feelings and hearts and emotions, and we need to be able to take care of those, because we can't minister to people if we're not whole. So mental health care is very important, and prayer is good. The support groups is good, Bible study, everything about the church is good, but we also have to couple it with the fact that we're human beings, and we need to take care of our mental space too. We often forget that mental space. So thank you for those. We're going to go into a couple more of those a little bit later. So self-reflection, I might not be able to read this, it's a quote. It says, self-reflection is a humbling process. It's essential to find out why you think, say, and do certain things. Then better yourself. I'll say that again. Self-reflection is a humbling process. It's essential to find out why you think, say, and do certain things. Then better yourself. That's from Spencer Burton. I want you to be aware of the feelings that you have around the topic of suicide. To be aware of your feelings. We're not going to change all of your feelings in a 2 or 3 hour block, but we want you to be aware of them so that you can be better as you're approaching the people out in the marketplace. One key thing, I'll tell you my personal experience. After I lost my brother to suicide, if someone said the word committed, it was like a gut. It hit me in the, like somebody just came and punched me in the stomach. Because when we, especially in the church, when we hear the word committed, it's adultery, they're going to hell, or a crime. It's always a bad thing, and to me, I said, well, yes, my brother made a bad decision, and he is no longer here, but I don't want to put him in the same category as criminal activity. So for me, I would never say committed suicide. Actually, right after I lost my brother, I said he was murdered, because it was easy to say murder than to say died by suicide. And my Christian mindset was, if my brother was in his right mind, he would never have done this. He was outside of his right mind, so whatever that might be, spiritual attacks, different things that influenced him to take his own life, it wasn't him. Therefore, I saw him as being murdered by that other thing, not himself. So it was a struggle for me. So words do matter. And as you're going through these exercises, try to say, there's a couple of ways to say it. I've heard different versions, but I just say died by suicide. It's real cut and dry, easy to say. Or took their own life. It's okay to say that too. If you say committed, just come back and say, killed yourself or died by suicide. Just try to avoid that. I'm thinking, you know how it is, like if you say blue car, and you don't think about it, and then you go out and you're like, everybody's got a blue car. When we say it, you're going to be like, oh, let me bring that back in and not say committed and just try to do a replacement for it. So we're going to do some self-reflection, and a couple of you have already toned in on a couple of these things. So thoughts and beliefs that shape us. You guys have extensive background in different areas, churches, religious background, Catholic, we got Catholic, we got Jewish, we got a little bit of everything here in the room. So we have our religious beliefs that shape us, and we also have our family dynamic. Like how do we serve in the home? What do we see examples from our parents and people around us? So those thoughts and beliefs become ours. We adopt a lot of those ourselves. And sometimes those thoughts and beliefs might be hurtful to others, especially in the area of suicide prevention. So this one might be something you've heard people, the things popping up here are things I've heard people say over the course of the last 12 years working in suicide prevention. So suicide is a cowardly act. We might hear that a true Christian would never die by suicide, if they're really a Christian. Or if you die by suicide, you must not love your family, because you left them behind. Here's another one. Suicide is the ultimate sin. Yeah. Churches should only talk about faith and prayer, not suicide. Suicide brings shame on a family. People who die by suicide are selfish. So these statements up here, I'm going to give you guys an opportunity just to, if there's one that kind of made your mind go, ooh, yeah, that thing. I want you to share how that thought feels to you. Maybe it's one that you had. Yes, please.
I'm not proud of it, but our daughter called one day several years ago, and she said, I'm just calling to tell you bye, because I'm about to run the truck into a tree. And when I got to her, I said, you are so selfish. Why would you do this? And she went through treatment, and we're very open, and we talk about it all the time now. And at the end of her treatment, she said, Mom, I was contemplating suicide, and the only thing you had to say is I was selfish. It was, I mean, shame on me. Shame on me, but since then, our relationship's so good. She'll call me now, she's 26, and she'll say, I'm not in a good place. And she knows that she needs to go get herself checked in. But now we have this huge open communication. But I was raised very country Southern Baptist, and all of these things is the way I was raised. And I mean, once again, I forgive myself that shame on me, you know. It is very true that unfortunately this is old school thinking, being raised in the church.
Yeah. And it's good that you're here to learn. That's the key. We've got to start learning, getting educated, because that I could say, I probably would say that same thing. Because it's different when it's your child or your loved one that you're really close to. If you have that experience, all the training you learn goes out the window. I'll tell you, it goes out the window, and you're gonna your heart's gonna jump out and speak. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
There was a friend of mine. She had two people, her brother and then his best friend. His best friend took his life. And he left behind a little girl, and his best friend did not take it well, was mad at him for all of these things, selfish, you left behind your family, all these things, and then within a year, he took his life the same way, and so it's kind of like you can't, and then the sister's mad because everything that her brother was upset about his best friend doing, he did the same thing, and it just brought a lot of, the impact that it has on you.
Absolutely, yeah. That's why it's very important to have good postvention, and that's what's after the suicide, because those families are hurting. They're gonna need some support, and the way, if the community can embrace them, it doesn't have to be the church, but just the community embraces them and helps them to along the way, and it's gonna be a long journey, then they have a less of a chance to die by suicide as well. But definitely in that space, I can see, I've seen that happen quite often. Yeah. Kendra.
The churches should only talk about faith and prayer, not suicide. And it kind of goes to the questions you all were talking about earlier. Churches are uniquely positioned, right? What other group of people come together every week? Like literally show up every Sunday or every Wednesday, when you have church to talk about stuff. No one else does that. And so to be able to open a space and say the word out loud offers an opportunity for other people to come forward and feel safe about saying suicide out loud. It can be very powerful to be able to use that setting and that opportunity to help people. And how many times have you walked away from, a mass or a sermon or oh God, they were talking to me today, right? We always think sometimes when we leave a service like that, oh, that was for me, or something resonates with you. Just imagine if something about suicide resonated with someone when they left the church.
And transparency is very important. So when it comes to loss, I know that I look to people that have the same experience as me to see, okay, how do they handle that? How do they get through? I attended Covenant Love, and when my pastor, Mama Tava, lost their son to a drug overdose, we watched them in the pulpit and saw how they went through that grief. And they were a pillar for me because it happened. My brother died right after that. So seeing that and saying, okay, this is what they did, and they were still up there, and yeah, they cried out their hearts often, but they still got through. And I looked at them and said, okay, let me just figure out how they did that. And I could go back and look at scriptures and different messages that they preached on, and say, oh, okay, yeah, I remember him talking about that, and that helped me. Because you got to have, if your ministers are up there and they got a halo on their head and nothing ever happens to them, it's hard for the church to be able to come in and say, hey, I've got issues, because they're looking at a person up there that apparently has everything together. So our ministers in the pulpit and those folks that are teaching in classes, be transparent and let people know that you're not perfect. None of us are. None of us are. Any other of these comments anyone would like to speak on or touch on?
I was gonna say, I feel like I've heard all those, right, and all that, and that's a big reason for me, like, why I wanted to do this, right, to really provide some other education and get a different viewpoint. I come from that mindset that there's a line in that the church should be more like a hospital. These folks end up going to the emergency room, and it's not the place. We learned earlier this year that about 75% of people reach out to somebody in the faith community first. You know, and so, like, do we really know what to do, and can we help change some of this mindset?
So, as talking from lived experience, so I've been on both sides of that aspect. I myself have attempted suicide, and I also lost a child to suicide. So I can honestly say that from my perspective, when I was attempting, my family was all I thought about. Sorry. And I know my son was not a coward. So I think sometimes we just have to consider that the things that we believe, as opposed to the things that are going on in people's hearts and minds, needs to be accepted, and maybe creating an opportunity to understand and educate on what we're truly looking at.
Thank you for that. So I'll say, and I'm going to jump on your shoulders over there with the comment you mentioned about suicide being the ultimate sin. When my brother died by suicide, with our background, I was talking, I didn't speak to my grandma, my cousin was talking to my grandma, and she said, Grandma, what do you think about, my brother's name is Hotshot. What do you think about Hotshot? And she said, well, baby, I just don't know. You know, suicide is the ultimate sin. And my grandmother was 90. So she went through her whole life of church and being taught. I call it fairy tales, because that's not anything. I went on a mission. I'm going to find that in the Bible, because I want to know. I need some peace within about my brother. And if you all have that good old-fashioned, it's about this thick. I said, let me go to Strong's and see if it's in there. And I looked, and I looked, and I looked, and nowhere in that Bible, even the word ultimate is not in the Bible even one time. Not one time. So we get to a habit, churches get into a habit of just saying what their grandfather and their great-grandfather and their pastor from, you know, the 100-year-old church said, and they just keep on saying it, and nobody's checking it. We got to get into being fact checkers, even in church, because sometimes they say stuff that's wrong. And if you're the one that's saying stuff that's wrong in church, you got to go to that Strong's and see what it really, really, really says. And after that, I was at peace. I said, you know, if the argument was, what I hear a lot of times is the argument is because you don't have a chance to repent. And if you go to my website, you'll see a story. It talks about a lady, a single mother who's got 3 kids, about to go to school, and you know those school lists are getting longer and longer and longer. And she's like, oh, you know what, I've got stuff at the office. I can just take a ream of paper each break and go put it in my car. So when I leave, that's going to save me about $15. And I'm just, even though my boss said you can't do that, stealing, You can't do that, that's a sin. So this lady gets in her car at the end of the day, and she's got all the school supplies she needs in her car that she got from her office supply. She's driving down the road, doesn't pay attention, and a trucker comes and hits her. Boom. She dies. She doesn't have a chance to repent for all that stuff she just stole from work. So is that an ultimate sin because she didn't get a chance to repent for stealing? It's kind of the same thing. So it makes you think, okay, where did we come up with this? And just don't be the one that says, I'm going to take that story and keep running with it because it's not true and it hurts people.
Yes.
I've been in a class where I had a young man that came up to me on a break and said, ma'am, I lost my dad, my uncle, and my grandpa all to suicide. And I'm the last male in my family. And he told me this in private, and I said, okay, I knew it. And as we went on to the next segment to teach, a lady in this class said, well, if you die, you're going to hell. And I kind of looked at his reaction out of the corner of my eye, and it did something to him. And so I had to make sure I changed that conversation to say, well, no, let's have a talk about that, because typically I don't do that with military, but in that moment I had to make sure I protected his heart. But we have to be careful what we say and what we allow people to say. And people will have strong opinions, but you just have to be the one that says, let's do some fact checking, and let's make sure that we're taking care of people's hearts, because that's what's most important. Okay. Let's go to, see, Daisy, what just happened there? There we go. Preparing yourself to be an effective supporter. We need to be effective supporters when it comes to suicide. So we're going to talk about these questions. Notice there's a little time clock in a discussion, so this one's going to be at your tables again. The things I want you to talk about, and I'm going to assign the questions to tables, okay? So this table right here, you all, and back in the back, the Hope Dealer table. You guys are going to answer this question. What barriers may stop a faith-based leader from asking someone if they're suicidal? What barriers stop a faith-based from asking? That's for you two tables. The next question is going to be for pastor's table and y'all's table back there. What barriers may hinder someone from seeking help from the faith-based community when they're having thoughts of suicide? So we're going to talk about the barriers that are going to stop someone who needs help, that's someone who needs help, from the faith-based community when they're having thoughts of suicide. Is that good? Y'all clear? And then the remaining tables, you're going to have how can faith-based leaders remain open-minded when someone says that they're thinking about suicide? How do you remain open-minded as a faith-based leader? So these are the questions. You guys will have 5 minutes of discussion. We'll do 4 minutes of discussion, then we're going to give you a minute to kind of share with the room what you came up with.
Well, and part of what we wanna do is give them things to educate their young people, like, even if they have difficulties putting that in, like, what are resources are frustrating to you? To even do stuff like that. To break the ice.
My granddad.
Normalize that it's it's not a depression, feeling shame, that goes along with power, attention, why they won't go to sleep. It's not just feeling shame. Why am I feeling God is freedom, you know, it's supposed to help and then feeling shame because, you know, some of the reactions that we get from others is not what we see about the time. Is that has a lot to do with
You know, lack of training in the other areas of the church, that mental health, that association, counseling, all church leaders really have to talk about what that just tries to get counseling, just teach us to identify that struggles you want to have,
when we're looking at the wheel of wellness, like spirituality, but it's not the only part. There's so much more. And if we're does have a lot more access to individuals than women, and this is all they're focusing on. How well because we're sitting in church and we're learning about how God said we've been told like that it's wrong for us to talk about shame it's what we're doing shame then are we maybe I'm going on this approach those 8 dimensions of wellness is so whether we have mental health
The way we stand before the Lord,
it's a vital
surrender all the time. I'm not secure.
Right? Social.
I don't think the church finally knows how to act.
Right, so education. That needs to be that church.
Apply God's word.
I try to really look at the big picture. Like churches are already doing the things to address, like right, we're doing food drives, we're doing community events. Like the 2 reasons that people die by suicide, theory-wise, connectedness, they don't have it, and they feel like a burden. Like churches can help people not feel like a burden. They create connectedness. They address the social and mental health, right? They provide food. They can provide money when people have financial issues. Like, there's so many opportunities. I think that they just don't know that they're doing it.
And how to connect.
But how to connect.
They also
A lot of churches.
not the rest of the community. Prime example, because I was on a unit one day, thoughts of
part of it. For real. Like, I think when people hear suicide, they think it's an emergency.
So this person knows there is.
Call 911.
Okay, so we're gonna, each table, because we have a couple of you doing the same question, we're gonna just let you answer one of the points that you had, so that you don't take all the good stuff for the other table. We wanna give everybody an opportunity to respond. So, we're gonna go ahead and start right here with this table. Which question did you have?
We had the third question, remain open-minded.
Okay, and can you give me the top response that you guys came up with?
I think that was staying open-minded as far as that everybody's treatment is gonna be different, it's not gonna be some cookie cutter textbook. Their why is gonna be different, so the way that they, like, their love language, how they're gonna react to the way that you are, not, you know, if you may not be the best person to help that person, but being able to be self-aware with that and lead them in the right direction. But basically just that everybody's gonna be different and not to put them in a box with treatment.
Absolutely, yeah, very key. Okay, let's go to your table, right here, Pastor.
We had question number 2, and the first thing we said about barriers would be embarrassment, just the perception of others after they reach out for help, like, you know, just kind of the stigma behind suicide or suicide ideation. Just like, what will they think of me if I ask for help or say that I need help, admit that I need help?
Okay. All right, let's go right here. Which question do you all have?
We had the first one
Okay.
of barriers,
Barriers.
and what we talked about, it was based on what the beliefs of the church was, along with the doctrine. And they just would be inside of that without being able to ask someone that question, because maybe that particular denomination decided we don't believe in it, it may be the ultimate sin.
Okay. All right, let's go back there to the hope table.
So, we said that there's fear if they say yes, do we have the proper resources?
I hear that a lot. Yeah, important to make sure that we equip folks with that answer, with the right response. Okay, ladies, right back here.
So we had, the third question, how can faith-based leaders remain open-minded when someone says that they're thinking about suicide? We had several, but, one of the main one was to, meet that person where they're at. It's like, don't throw the Bible at them. Ask more questions, just a warm, caring, it just, you don't put the walls up and put them in a single thing. That was kinda hard for us to answer, but, so many times we want to, while scripture's good, sometimes we don't know what has hurt that person. And it could have been having something to do with the church, so we have to sometimes just be careful.
Yeah.
And open-minded too.
You wanted to say something?
You know, we had the first question as well. It took me back to my high school days, and my teacher asked me, "Hey, Danny, define ignorance and apathy," and I said, "I don't know and I don't care." And she said, "Correct." But Keisha said a good word a while ago, ignorance. A lot of times we're ignorant because we just don't know. That's what the definition of ignorance is, not knowing. And then apathy is another thing, not caring enough. We say we care, but if you don't put actions speak louder than words. You've gotta put, one thing I told them, churches are like football teams. You can know the plays, you can get in the huddle on the field and talk about the play. Baptist and I can say Baptist was not our one. We're notorious for running, for staying in the huddle and not running the play. And one thing we asked ourselves at Aaron Lake years ago, and it was a hard question to ask ourselves in staff meeting, if we closed our doors, would this community even care? And that's a hard question, but every church that's why we wanna do things like serving and seating, get outside the doors of our church, run the play. Don't just talk about it. Don't just read about it and preach about it, sing about it. Run the play. Get past the ignorance, get past the apathy, and really have the heart and mind of Christ.
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't have to hit them with the Bible. What'd you guys come up with in this table?
We also had listed judgment or embarrassment, like they had, and then, we had question number 2. We also listed, what was I gonna say?
Shame.
Oh, shame, I'm sorry, like the shame of, coming forward and the shame of questioning God, in the church also in that way when you're experiencing that.
Okay. Yeah, there can be many barriers out there, and it's good to have this dialogue, and even, I encourage you even to go back to your faith communities, wherever they are, and have some of this discussion with them there to ask, like that point, are we making a difference? Does it really matter? So that you can be a help to someone that's reaching out. Because the worst thing that can happen is someone comes to you and they're like, I'm going to ask this lady to help me because I'm having thoughts of suicide, and that lady shuts them down or says the wrong thing or damns them with a poke upside the head with the word, and then they're no longer willing. It's courageous to come forward and say, I'm having thoughts of suicide. That is extremely courageous. So if they build up that courage to do it, you need to be there to receive them. And that's what we need to we're going to work on that today, give you some skills on how to do that. We're going to go into the 4 R's of suicide. You guys have a note-taking sheet, and we're going to go through each of these. It's red flags, response actions, resources, and reinforcements. It's probably a model that you've already been using. We're just putting it together in a nice little dialogue with pictures and things for you to know what to do. It starts at red flags, works its way around clockwise on the diagram. So here's the definitions, and you do have a place where you can fill in some of these. Red flags are things that give you the feeling that something is wrong, and a person may be contemplating suicide. That's a red flag. Things that give you a feeling that something's wrong, and a person may be contemplating suicide. I've heard you guys use the term a couple of times, red flags, in the room already today. So just kind of throwing some definitions up there to make it package it all together. So we have the red flag, and the red flag leads us to a response action. What are we going to do about it? Response actions are the actions you take to potentially save a person from suicide, but never put yourself in danger. So those are your response actions. When you're responding, those are the actions you take to potentially save a person from suicide and never put yourself in danger. The third one is resources. We've got the red flags, we reacted to them. What are the resources available? Resources are available sources of help for the individual issues. Typically there's more than one. So resources, we need to make sure that we have resources for all of those individual issues. And then the final one is reinforcements. Just think about rebar. If you're into like doing road work, you got rebar in there, that's that extra reinforcement. Or think about that net that's underneath those trapeze artists. You got to have some kind of reinforcement to catch folks, to give them a build support. So those are the people, activities, and support that give a person a desire and reason to live. Reinforcements, people, activities, and support, they give a person a desire and reason to live. We have another term here, it's called risk factors. I have a risk factor that I lost my brother to suicide. So factors are things that may increase the likelihood of someone dying by suicide, but having these does not mean that you're going to. I could have every single one of these things on here and be perfectly fine and live my life full. However, we need to be aware that sometimes these risk factors might need to let us open up our eyes a little bit more and take a look at them. This is the opposite of being put into that little triangular box. So know that there's risk factors out there. Family history of suicide. The key thing that I see in the suicides I capture with the Army are unbroken, are unstable relationships. Girlfriend broke up, boyfriend broke up, long marriage that's about to end in divorce. We see that consistently with relationships. Depression or anxiety may be present. We often see substance abuse. So we have alcohol and drugs, and then we have the depression, and everything kind of is a perfect storm for that to set up for suicide. So we need to be aware of these risk factors here, and know for each of these risk factors, just have an idea of what's in your community that you can refer someone to help with that. So if it's broken, unstable relationships, if your church has maybe a couples group, or you have some kind of a training in the community that speaks on effective communication, things like that. Just kind of start thinking in your wheelhouse, okay, what do we have that can help with these issues? Violent and unstable homes, we see that a lot of youth that are coming from the foster care system, or maybe homes where maybe their parents are on drugs and they're just not present. We do see that a lot. And then bullying is a big one as well. Often for the youth, but we have adults too that are still impacted by things they've experienced as youth. And then financial instability is a big one that I also see. Maybe you, especially with COVID, a lot of people had to change their financial status. Maybe you had a great job and now you can't really afford the things that you used to have. So we see a lot of people that have, as a risk factor, financial instability for those that have attempted to take their lives by suicide. So these are just a couple that could be there. There could be a whole lot more added to this list, and we could sit here all day to talk about additional things. So this is just an idea to see what we see kind of common in the cases that I come across. Now we're going to talk about the opposite side, so the protective factors. Notice up there, that's our knight in shining armor, that Teflon chest right there. We have the armor of God here, we have the protective factors as well. That's what we're looking at here. So those are things that give us the desire to live. It's our protective factors, the things that protect us. We see them in the physical, spiritual, social, and emotional. Those kind of just overarching connections for our well-being. We want you to have all of those things: physical, spiritual, social, emotional. What I see a lot in the church, and I can just think of many people in my family, they're really strong on that spiritual, really strong on that social. They're going to have those potlucks and things like that, but they're not really big on the physical. My mom is not going to get out and go walking too often. She does now, but she didn't always. And then the emotional side, a lot of times they just say, I got it. I got it. I'm okay, baby. I got it. We say that a lot in the church community, the faith-based community. I've got it. No problems. I'm good. I don't need help. But that's not true. We know it's not true. So that the protective factors can be people, it can be groups or activities, even habits that you have are protective factors, and thoughts can be protective factors in your life. Can anyone think of any other protective factors you want to add to this list? What can be another protective factor? If you want to give me an example of one of those ones on the bottom bullet there. People, activities, habits, and thoughts. Families?
Some people might be their pets.
Absolutely. Yeah. For many people, your pets can be your protective factor. Any other protective factors? What about groups?
Recovery meetings.
Well, we use, we have a lot of discipleship groups, big groups that are meeting, and it's just small groups where you can, it takes about, we meet for, I'm just finished my second, we do it for a year at a time. I have a group of about 3 or 4 guys, and we do life together, go through the Bible, and we memorize scripture together, but we talk it out, and it takes about 2 or 3 months for them to really open up and become vulnerable, and you have to understand, it's like we have to say at Recovery Alive, what happens there stays there. What happens in the room stays in the room.
Yes.
So that people know they feel safe there to open up and to share. And so, you know, doing life together with groups like that, a small group of accountability partners.
And it's important to be with like-minded people. So your groups don't necessarily have to be Bible-based. It can be bowling. It can be a Saturday afternoon stroll in the park. Find people that you can connect with, because what that also gives you is part of the protective factors, that those people are the ones that are going to notice when you're not there. Okay, if Lori hadn't shown up in a while, we're going to go find out where she's at. Who's got her number? Let's call her up and see where she's at so we can get her in the room. And connecting with them. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you asked for some other ones. I was thinking like core values and kind of like your sense of purpose is a protective factor. At least in my life, sometimes I have to ask myself, like, who are you? You know, what do you stand for? Does this fit with what you stand for in hard moments in life? And so I think that's a protective factor.
Yeah, that kind of goes along there with thoughts and habits that we have. Value, definitely our values are a big protective factor.
Another protective factor is serving. Getting out and serving. That helps my vertical design, helps out in the community.
Why do you think that helped you so much?
Because it's giving back, being around other folks and seeing what's going on.
Also helps us get outside of
Yes,
ourselves,
yeah.
so when it's not about me, then.
Yeah. Purpose? Yeah. Something happens when you get out there and you do something for someone else. And there's a growth that's in there, so that's definitely good when serving, I like that. Okay, so let's talk about red flags. You have that on your sheet there. Those are actions, behaviors, changes, words, or status changes that can make a person at risk of self-harm or suicide. On this slide, I do say self-harm or suicide. Self-harm does not equal suicide, because someone can harm themselves and not kill themselves. So definitely different words. But red flags are those actions that kind of cue you in that, hey, something is wrong. I need to see what's going on with this person. They should prompt you to address the person and guide them to a resource for help. Now the key thing that we have in our lives that often gets us caught up is time, right here. Time. I know for me, I'm like, ooh, I'm on a tight crunch. I got a lot of things going on. I can't help you right now. But we have to kind of get to that space where we see these red flags, and something within us says, okay, this is something that shouldn't wait until Monday morning. Make that phone call. Because if you say, I'm going to call them in the morning, they may not get there. You got to really be, this is kind of where my faith base in my church, they say, you got to get that unction. It tells you to reach out to them. If you get that unction, that gut feeling, trust your gut and reach out to them and ask them what's going on. It's very important. So those red flags, just like it says a red flag, if you go out to the beach and you see those flags that have certain colors out there, you're going to follow those. So with this one right here, if you see a red flag, your cue should be to just stop, take a moment, reach out. And it's easy as that. Just you got to make sure that you do it. Don't call someone up and say, hey, did you see that post that Jonathan put on his page? What's up with that? He's tripping. He's crazy. He's done lost it. Don't do that. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, with my friend, he had called me to thank me for everything I've done for him. I asked him, I said, what's going on? And he said, nothing. He said, I'm okay. I said, no, what's really going on? He says, I've had enough. So I said, do I need to talk to someone? He goes, no, it'll be all right. So I hung up with him, immediately reached out to his daughter, said, call your dad. Said he needs help. And I called my buddy up, I'm out of state, he's in another state. I said, hey, this is Kevin's saying some strange stuff. I said, can you go check on him? He said, well, I'll do a reference check. So I tried calling him back, couldn't get a hold of him. Finally got a hold of him, he said, yeah, I talked to my daughter. I said, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm doing good. So we stopped the welfare check, everything. Woke up in the morning, texted him, nothing. And a friend of mine called me later that day, said, he took his life. I think what hurt most was that he lied to me, told me he was fine. And he lied to his daughter. But again, I can't understand his mental state at the time. I know what drove him to it, I know all the factors involved, but it just felt helpless.
And in that moment, your anger of him not lying, I would say to you that in his mental state, he probably was fine. He felt like he was going in pain that he might have been in, and so fine for him was that I'm going to stop this pain. So not that he lied to you, he was calling, he trusted you and talked to you as a trusted person. So that kind of really shows that love bond connection there. But I wouldn't capture it as lying, because a lot of times what we see is that people who are having thoughts of suicide, they feel like they're going to leave people in a better place. Maybe they feel like right now I'm failing them, I'm not doing well, so if I'm gone, I'm going to help them, and they're okay with that. Yeah, they're okay, which is why sometimes people who are suicidal are walking around, they're smiling, they're just happy, they're just enjoying life, because in their mind they're like, I've only got 8 more hours of this, or I've only got 1 more day of this, and I'm just going to go out and live it to the fullest, and then they're gone. but in their mind, they weren't, it wasn't a bad thing, it was just I'm relieving the pressure. Yeah, yeah. Now, the impact of the people afterwards, that are like those 135 people, we can't say the same thing, but in that moment, and it's a mental thing that we can never get in their heads to understand what they were thinking, but I just believe that they're trying to do better and get away from a pain situation, and even if they reach out, it shows love. I received my brother's text message, that was the last thing I received from him before he died, and I was angry and mad and all that stuff too, but I said he did reach out to me, and then I knew that the love was there, so, yeah, but it's definitely difficult, and you gotta pull around the team of the people that reached out to help you through it. That's the action you do, you make those phone calls, you called, you did everything that we're teaching you to do. We have to understand that sometimes the efforts that we do, that person may still choose the route of suicide. It doesn't reflect on you. I know I beat myself up for a year. I'll be the first to say, yep, I sure did blame Kim. And I know it wasn't my fault, but I still blame you because that's what you do. But at some point you have to say, okay, we did everything we can, and if it happens still after you've done everything you've been trained to do, just know that you did what you were trained to do. So thanks for sharing that, Bob. So red flags, we talk about actions and things they do, like you mentioned, he was talking differently. What are some actions? Let's just think, there's another training module if you go to the online course, and we're not gonna cover it today for time's sake. But let's talk about social media, because we do see that, I mean, like everybody, if you go out here, everybody's gonna be on their phone, sitting at the restaurant. What are some actions or things that you might notice on social media that would make you think someone might be thinking of suicide? What would be a red flag on social media?
They're constantly posting and then they're not.
Okay, so changes in behavior, yeah.
Or just the content that they're posting. Life is awful, this is terrible, there's nothing going right, would be an indication of perhaps.
Nobody care that, if anything happens to me.
Okay.
Giving these away, selling names.
Yeah.
They're apologizing, making amends for things that maybe they've done in the past. Apologizing.
Okay. And that one right there, we might say, oh, finally. They finally come to their senses and apologize to me and not even realize it. Yeah.
Or thanking you for everything you did.
Yeah, same.
Or trying to make, arrangements for stuff for after, like, hey, if anything ever happens to me, then you could insert,
Yeah. Are you willing to take my dog? Their
Yeah.
life, precious dog.
Giving away things,
Uh-huh.
giving away.
Yeah.
They're gathering the tools and rehearsing the moment. Gathering tools, you could say a firearm. You know, a person that's never dealt with firearms, now they're getting a firearm. And now they're going out to the range, or they could be doing it with medication, stockpiling the medication for an overdose. They're actually going through a scenario to make it go through that day
Yeah.
at their time.
Yeah, lots of things can be red flags, and I don't want you to be on the other side of it and say, oh, I should have done that, because there was a lot of red flags, I'm I missed it. Speaking of those two things that you just mentioned, on the table back there's literature on medication, safe disposal of medication as well as firearms, so please make sure that you take those. If you need to take a couple so you can go share or put on a bulletin board at your church, please make sure that you do that too, because it's very important. We don't think about those things. A lot of times, you have medications, you might have a tooth pulled or something like that, and you have medications at your house that you have sitting there. You don't know who might be able to, who might be looking at that as, okay, there's my means. I didn't have it before, now I do. So please make sure that you take those papers that are in the back. Okay. So in the response actions, in that section of response actions, we have a thing that's called ACT. You'll hear me say you need to take action. That's ACT. A-C-T. And that, part of the response actions, the first things are if it's critical, you call 911 if it's urgent, or if you're unable to reach them. Like say they make a statement or send you a text that you're not sure about, and then you try to reach back to them and they're not answering anymore. You can reach out, you can do welfare check with them, bless you, You can do a welfare check with them, or if they say, hey, I've just taken these pills already, or I've done something else, for the act of dying by suicide, then you can call 911. Then you go into ACT. ACT is ask, care, and take. Asking is you're gonna ask them that question of suicide, and it's not an easy one to ask. I've had to ask it a few times in real world scenarios, and it didn't get any easier for me because I've been teaching this class forever. It's difficult to ask, but if you go through it like we're gonna do today, just do some rehearsals, then you'll be able to do it if you're in that position. So ask them if they're having thoughts of suicide. You wanna care for them, and care does not mean throw the Bible at them. It means care for them, show love, and then take them to help. And sometimes, well, that help is gonna look different for every situation. For some, that take might be, hey, let's sit down with our phone and let's call this hotline, or let's call this service to get to those individual needs that you're dealing with. Or take may be getting them in your vehicle and taking them to a clinic or to a hospital or to talk to a chaplain. So that's what you're gonna be doing. Your response actions is asking, caring, and taking. But before you ask, you need to know that how your communication skills are. So we talk about active listening. I'm sure you guys have heard that before. We have, what are some verbal cues of active listening? What does it look like on the verbal side? Yes.
That what I hear you saying is, repeat what you're saying.
Okay. What else?
Summarize what they said to you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Ask clarifying questions if you don't understand.
Mm-hmm. How would you shape that? Asking a clarifying question.
You could say, you know, I heard you say that you can't go on anymore. What does that mean?
What does it look like?
Yep.
And then when you do understand, let them know you understand. Well, I hear you, I hear your heart.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels safe.
Ask open-ended questions.
Say that again.
Ask open-ended questions.
So I don't ask a yes or no question?
No.
Okay. Yep, open-ended questions. Let's talk about the physical. Active listening, what does that look like on the physical side?
Body language.
Mm-hmm. I saw your eyes, eye contact, body language. What about the body language?
Don't keep your arms crossed.
Don't do this.
Open.
Okay.
Focused.
Focused?
Put your phone
Not on
down.
your phone.
Looking at our watch or a card.
Yeah, put your phone away, put it over there. Or if you need to maybe do research while you're talking to them, just say, I'm gonna have my phone right here in case we need to call somebody together. But not as something that you're looking at or being distracted, like, hold on one second, my son.
Don't put a barrier in between you and them.
Okay. Like a table or something like that?
Even reaching out and touching them physically, putting your hand on their shoulder or their knee. Could be helpful.
You need to ask.
Yes.
Yeah. Ask first. Yeah. And in your relationship with that person is gonna also dictate the actions that you have. If I was with a perfect stranger, I'm probably not gonna touch, maybe I'll touch a shoulder or something, or both of them be like.
Listen to vets,
But-
cause vets will be triggered by a lot of these things, so if you don't ask and they get triggered, then you really went from this to this. So,
Yeah. Speaking from the EMT in Fayetteville, North Carolina, yeah.
right.
When I think about
population.
physical, I also think the space that you're in. Like if you're in the actual church at the time and there's lots of people around as you're leaving, like, hey, can we go over here? Changing the environment can create a better opportunity for someone to share more.
Yeah. Yep. So one of the things I learned when I had 3 sons, so I needed a lot of guidance on parenting and stuff like that. I was like, my goodness. But I have a book and it talks about posture and all these different things, and it has, anybody heard of the belly button rule? Belly buttons? No? Okay. So this is the thing. If you're sitting in that person, if your belly button has a line going out of it like this, like a little laser, does it have a laser? No. Imagine a laser. And if their belly button had a laser going straight out of it, if they don't ever cross, then you're not in the right space. You need to get to where you're, even if it's like this, the positioning of your bodies. Front arm you can do fine, that's me and my kids, but if if they never cross, so if you're sitting side by side and your bellies are both pointing that way, you're not gonna get each other. If you're not facing each other, but if you have it where your belly buttons are gonna cross at some point, then it's a more intimate space, and they're more likely gonna connect with you. So I had to stop taking my kids on the porch and sitting side by side. I was like, you sit there, I'm gonna sit right here, cause our lines gotta cross. They don't know. But just little simple things on how you position yourself. Yes, ma'am.
Your eye level, like if you're dealing with a child, just getting lower under their level and not
Yeah.
above.
That's good.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so many things, but the key ones, if you can put that phone down and focus your eyes on them, then you're pretty much there, and then you can work on all the other things. But of course, environment matters too. So getting them outside of a large group. I wouldn't talk to anyone like this in this large group unless they said, hey, I would like to talk right now. I would say, okay, let's just wait and we'll go talk somewhere else afterwards. So definitely gotta do that. So when we're gonna do that, we gotta make sure that we're good. Now, raise of hands. How many of you think you are effective listeners? Really, really good listeners. Okay. All right. So the rest of you think you just need to improve a little bit? Okay. And I want you to think today, you know yourself. Think about how you can improve. Like, okay, this week I'm gonna make a task and I'm gonna improve on maybe my physical posture or my verbal. I need to make sure I'm repeating back things and clarifying what I hear. And just practice it every day. Like you can do it in the McDonald's, you can do it at Walmart, you can do it at CVS. Just talking to people, they don't know you're practicing. They'll be like, man, I just felt good. They're gonna walk away feeling really good because you really paid attention to them. So work on that. That's your homework. Now in that act, we have a few things to do. We're gonna ask them about suicide, and we're gonna do that in a clear and concise words. I say do not use cliches or soft terms. So you don't want to say, are you thinking about, doing the, what are you talking about? That's not clear and concise. You don't want to say, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you thinking about doing something stupid? You don't want to come across like that. Don't use a judgmental tone. And the bulleted one there, assess their human needs before their spiritual needs. So you don't want to go all Bible on them right here. You want to just talk to them and hear what they're saying, hear what their needs are, and then address those needs. And then think about your nonverbal actions. So are you looking? Are you going over here and doing other things? And are you not using good listening skills? Yes.
I also think it's really important to mention is when you're sitting and you're asking somebody, are you thinking about suicide? Well, yes, they might be thinking about it, right? It may have crossed their minds. So when she said be specific about what you're asking, be specific. Are you thinking about killing yourself? It's a much different conversation than just saying, are you thinking about suicide?
Or are you planning?
Right.
Right. Now,
So you want to be clear about what you're asking.
just out of, somebody like, and I know everybody's gonna be different, but somebody that's thinking about that, do they want to hear, like, experiences that, not, that say you, like, do they want you to try to relate with them, or do they want it to be focused on them at that, you know what I mean, like?
So in that moment, just use these only. Unless they ask you something, but they need to talk. And more than likely, no one's ever gonna ask them that question. But the fact that you asked them about suicide, that they're like, oh, I get to talk. They wanna talk. You don't have to try to relate, because more than likely, we're, as caring and giving people, it's our habit to say, you know what, I know how you feel. And we don't. We don't.
Sister's neighbor.
Or I understand. No, you probably don't. So just be careful of the like packaged responses, and just be in receive mode. And we're gonna have a couple of different practices that we're gonna go through, and it'll kind of help put it together. So we'll go on to that before, and then after that, if there's any questions you have, we'll go on to that. So ask. Common mistakes when asking is you're not having thoughts of suicide, are you? The tone is wrong. And if you start any sentence with "you're not," their answer is supposed to be no. You're telling them like, you're going to tell me no. So don't ever start a question with "you're not." The next one, you feel safe in your home? Are there any medical folks in the room? Nurses? I do this when I go to the VA. So my nurses, now they know how to ask me this question, because that's not a question. You feel safe in your home. She's telling me I feel safe in my home. I may or may not, but you just told me I am, but she formulates it as question. So just be careful how you ask it. It's a question, ask a true question. And do you want to harm yourself? I mentioned that before. Harming yourself is not the same thing as suicide. So if you ask the question, all right, do you want to harm yourself? Just add the next layer of that question, which is, are you thinking of suicide, and do you have a plan? So asking should be neutral and natural. Don't steer the question towards a false answer by saying you're not in the beginning of it, because that's not going to get you where you need to be. We're going to take a 10-minute break. Yep, we're going to take a 10-minute break, and then after that we're going to do some practices and see some scenarios later up on here. Okay, so the copies should be done back there. Okay, I got and if you're able to get back in your seats sooner than that, we'll start. I don't want you to lose time from your practice.
Just three.
We're matches here.
The one that is the IL8 though. Yes, because that's my personal email and I get, like all my school email goes through there, so it gets truly lost in translation. And if I sign up for something, so you didn't, and that way when they do those push notifications, it goes there. And so I told Claire, I was like, hey, don't use this. She always sits it there and then she's like, you didn't get that information. What email? What are you talking about? And then she goes back and she's like,
I'm sure she'll probably want to go on to we leave at 12, finish our week. You can't answer that one sentence, you know. Even if you were to say, we all know this, but all this is the year, so we met that year, that it's all figured, but because we
Joel. She saw it on the news. It was just.
We're having a hard time getting
They were estranged. They were not like she had pregnancy that day, but I'm still a little stuck because I love her like that. I don't know what's true that I had. Doesn't that sound very intense? I know. He had a pilot filled up the tank with gas and the explosion just no note for yes, he was that way.
You don't need any, do you? Or can?
No, sir. Yeah, we need our camp for the kids, but I think they're already on. Every car I got.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so anyone can carry this. And you know what's
There's all
for to match. Reversely before you said I could put it in my That's a great question. So how do you know? You don't know. Because you didn't see them take it. So what you're looking for is if you find someone that is non-responsive, or not doing your job, you can give this to them for her. Okay? So if you suspect that they have had an overdose,
everybody is
then you can report it straight to the nurse. It's not gonna hurt them. And if you come to, and you know that they have probably taken something that has an opioid type medication in it.
I am, but I don't know.
That's what you do is to help bring back the
So there's two in here?
There's two of them.
So it's good.
Well,
Most people encounter it
was my mom.
or maybe they're
We are 21% down.
like in the drive.
Will this chew be okay in a hot car in the summer or?
It loses effectiveness. So if you keep your purse and like one in the purse and one in somewhere else, will it still work? The answer is yes. It's just gonna lose its so some of them are.
I don't have a place to call it home, so I'm like, I think HUD should change that. Because that's a HUD standard, right? Like, they say, HUD says that you are not on housing, you're staying in someone's house for 7 days, you're going to be I'm like, so living on the street means that they get services. But if they're trying to actually stay inside because it's raining or cold or hot outside, they don't get services.
Basically,
Like, so I don't know. They, yeah, I don't know. Like, wonder what's coming. Like, I wonder how many people honestly, is there a map here? I lost her for the right place.
I can show you
Is there a map here? We never had many people come. But out there, right? Like, when things were flooded, I can wait it out at home and everything's gonna be great. Yeah. Survivor mode, and you can know the immediate crisis and then it's like the aftermath.
We never did it. My son
It was upstairs in the party. Candy party that year. And it was like I said, most people were like there.
They're all sitting around there. I think he did that every year. For real.
But it was
And it's like watching real people who are out there with all the orange cones. Like they work with you. Like I don't know. We only did it a year. Good pay, but
it'll be fine.
it just wasn't much. So.
Yeah, it'll be fine. That's why I give on. It's always work. They have to put one like expiration dates. They put expiration dates on. I don't take the paper. No, I don't. You just go underneath the
Stuff in the back of that too, by the way.
I know, me too, actually. Like brand new. Working around. I can make where I had it, he only had the, is he retired yet? The engine doesn't work because it works best. Whereas the IV one, you have them in the and you have to wait for the
and it takes, and when you don't have, like we would have backup coming on the radio because you have to have one hold like drawing it.
I promise you I did.
Y'all ready?
This to me is
Okay. Asking. We gotta make sure that when we ask, we use 3 parts for that. You guys already covered them, so we're gonna go through this quickly. We're gonna look at a couple little demonstrations. Acknowledge their issues. You guys have said that, kind of like hearing, making sure that you're understanding what they're going through. A whole lot of hearing, listening, more so than trying to talk and relate. So we really want to just be there to listen to them. I hear you saying that, and you can kind of paraphrase what you hear them saying, just to make sure that you're both talking and both understanding what's going on. That's Dr. Suicide. This is the second one, is what I call as an easer question. So you can pull these from the CC Columbia Scale rating. I forget what the acronym is, but this is one I just pulled from there because it's easy to use in the conversation. Do you feel like going to sleep and never waking up? Just asking, just kind of getting where their mental space is. And then the following question is, are you having thoughts of suicide? So asking that question, are you thinking of killing yourself? So 3 parts: acknowledge what you hear them saying, find a way to ease into that question, or if you're comfortable going straight to asking them, are you thinking of killing yourself? You can do that. So most people like to have a little kind of like a way to ease into that next one, because it's not comfortable, it's not something you've done quite often. But if you're okay to go to the final one, are you having thoughts of suicide, do you have a plan to go right into it, then by all means go straight to it. So that goes into our care section. Caring is a huge thing. When we talk about care, that could be a 5-minute conversation, it could be a 5-hour conversation. So it's important to understand that you're gonna have to do some investment here, and that investment is gonna be in time. You wanna make sure that you don't show disagreement or bias. So if they say something that you don't agree with, don't let your facial expressions show it. Don't let your words show it. Here it says avoid condemning statements. Avoid condemning statements. So if you're asking someone the question of suicide and they say yes, what would be an example of a condemning statement coming from a faith-based person?
Going to hell.
You're going to hell. Yeah. We don't want to do that. So avoid condemning statements. And this is one where yes, you want to have your faith background, but this is a place where you can put it in the back and just be there as a person that's showing true care. You want to find out if they have a plan, and if they have a plan, your next role is to make sure that you disable it, remove it, or stop it in some way, and that can be a challenge in itself. What we see is that firearms is one of the main ones. So there are different things you can use. You can get the gun locks back there and say, okay, we're going to make sure that we take the guns out of the home. Or we're gonna make sure that we have maybe a neighbor hold the guns or lock them up in a lockbox. If it's pills, that you gotta think a little bit more about that. Obviously, if it's pills, the person probably needs them, so maybe you give them a portion of pills that they need, just a daily dose of them instead of having a whole bottle for them to access. So disabling the plan has a whole lot into it, and the online training, if you wanna go a little bit more into that, you can log in and take that. Just know that it has to be disabled, removed, or stopped if possible. And then, try to distance them from their plan. So even if, like, say that you're talking to someone, there's weapons in their homes, maybe don't allow them to go to the home until you can call somebody that's there and say, hey, as a conversation with all three of you, can you find a way to get the weapons out of the home, and this is what's going on. But just keep them distance from it, and that can at least buy you some time. And then never leave them alone. Stay by their side. So that's the C of act, and the final one is the T, and that's the take. Take them to a hospital for an assessment if it's urgent, request a health and welfare check if needed, and stay by their side. So when we talk about take, there's different ways you can take them, places you can take them, and it's based on whether it's urgent or non-urgent. If it's an urgent situation where somebody's taking pills, of course you wanna go ahead and call 911, get the hospital out there. You can reach out to your clergy, let them know what's going on as well. I'd say please engage the church. I'll be the first one to say that when I lost my brother to suicide, I didn't even tell my church. I didn't tell Covenant Love here. They found out years down the road, but in that moment I was just like, nah, I'm good. Cause that's what I do, I'm good, I got it. I didn't even reach out to my church, but afterwards, and I shared that with them, they said you should have let us know so we could help you. But not all churches are the same, not everybody's equipped to do that. So we're gonna talk about resources, and we have urgent ones. As I said, 911 for those urgent situations. If you believe they've already harmed themselves, definitely call 911. If you believe you will be in danger, call 911. Not all situations, like the one I shared with my son and his little classmate, that one was a volatile situation where you wanna definitely call 911. Never put yourself in danger. Or if you cannot reach them and they don't respond. You have hospitals and clinics you can take them to. You can call 988, the crisis hotline. You can text as well. So the crisis hotline is for suicide, people who are having thoughts of suicide, but it's also for crisis. And it's not only a veteran. A lot of people think it's only for veterans. Anyone can call 988. So please make sure that you share that. Now we talk about non-urgent resources. Those are the ones we need to get to those individual needs a person has. These are things I want you to do in your homework. I want you to find out resources in our city that can help with the common things we see. Finances, relationships, child care, domestic violence, LGBTQ, bullying, mental health, and drug and alcohol. I'll tell you, the cards that you guys are gonna get are gonna have the majority of those, some resources on there, so that I'm kinda doing it for you, but I also want you to look around because there are many, many, many nonprofits in all of these areas that do a lot of support that help, that are not as publicized. So know the key ones, and finances and money are the top ones that I see, relationships. Alright, so the final R is called reinforcements. Remember I talked about that rebar, that net right there to catch those folks that are following. Things that build a person up, give them reason, desire to live. They're that safety net to help people. There are different reinforcement areas. So we spoke of the physical, spiritual, social, and emotional. It's in that yellow box, it's harder to see. We gotta make sure that we are well-rounded in all of those things. Okay, I need a poll. These are 4 vehicles up here on the slide. If you could walk out this door and walk away with the keys to any one of these vehicles, if it's number 1 that you pick, I want you to raise your hand. If you'd walk away with number 1, that SUV. I don't know. I'm kind of caught between an SUV and a truck. I like hauling stuff. Okay, so who are my number 1s? Okay. Who would pick number 2? Okay. Okay. Who would pick number 3? I think yeah, I'm gonna go with 3.
What kind of car is it?
That's a truck.
No, oh, 2.
Oh, 2 is just a little.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It's a fast little car.
Hey, do that one more time. What?
But I gotta stick with one, I picked number 3. Okay, so these are all cars. How many wheels do they have? 4. Okay, what would happen if you got the key to that car and you went out there and you were like, whoa, wait a minute. This is what happened. Okay, so these cars are not following the rules. They were not physically, spiritually, socially, emotional. If you put all those on one of your tires and you're out there driving around on the Jeep, who picked number 1? You're missing something. One of your tires is gone. So either you're in one of those 4 areas, you're not quite strong. Who picked little speedster? Y'all are good, because that person has physical, spiritual, social, emotional in notions. I'm not saying that people drive these cars are all good, because not all of them are. My beloved truck right here doesn't have any wheels, because that person isn't well-rounded at all. No physical, no spiritual, no social, emotional, and classic car over here, you're missing 2 wheels. 2 of them are missing, because that person's not well-rounded. So just think of your lives as a car, and then you got, not a motorcycle now. I want you to think of a car, 4 wheels on it. Where you need to be well-rounded, physical, spiritual, social, emotional, because if you're driving around in a car with 3 wheels, it's not gonna go very far. Okay, so just, that's how important it is. As important as the tires that you put on your vehicle. Make sure that they are all well-rounded. Okay, so here we go. We got the red flags, response actions, resources, and reinforcements. That's the process. Now, in this process, is it effective without using scripture? We didn't talk about scriptures. Can a Christian still use this?
Yes.
Model. Yeah. Because the key thing with us is making sure that we model Christ in doing daily life. So we can, our red flags are showing that we're paying attention to you. Our response actually shows that we're care, so we're showing the love of Christ by listening to them and asking those questions. Resources is what we're supposed to do. We're the hands and feet of God. We're here to give you resources and connect you to people that can help you. We don't have to be the helper. We can connect you to people that can help. And reinforcements just means that we're there for you. We're there to help you if things go bad. We want to make sure that we're building you up and keeping you strong through our life groups, through the support groups, through the meetings that we have. All this right here is just the same, and we didn't use the scripture to do it. That's what the church needs to do.
Mm-hmm.
Now this is it in a whole, everything that we have, and each one of these you'll notice that it's got little cues on there, reminders on it. That is the exact same picture that is going to be on little pocket cards that you guys are going to be receiving. So it's going to put it all in one little quick reference guide. Now this is a practice scenario I'm going to let you guys listen to. In this scenario there are no thoughts of suicide present. I don't know how easy it is for you to see, but if you're able to read what the words that's going to pop up, you're going to see it say, repeat this or say this out loud. If you're able to see that and you want to say it out loud, by all means, then go ahead and do it, because it's kind of practicing getting you guys into the mode of being a helper. And then you'll read the dialogue of the other person. I hear you saying that you feel like you're a burden to others. That's what the person's thinking. Have you ever felt like going to sleep and never waking up again? Have you been on the thoughts of suicide? Let me help you look for resources. Let's start with the military resources. Or pick a resource. So your next actions, make those calls with them. Don't give a number and say, hey, call. Follow up with the connection resources and stay by their side. So you're going to get the pocket guide, and the resource worksheet that you guys already have is on the side of your note sheet. So with this one here, I've had examples in the past where a soldier reached out. The military, we say call military one source. It's kind of like the catch-all. This soldier, she called. The resources that they gave her, a list of doctors to help her. There's about 50 on the list. Not one of those doctors were able to give her the help she needed for mental health care.
Wow.
I called her up and said, send me that list. I want to see it. And I started calling at work. I literally called 45 people before I got to a doctor that said, yes, we have an opening, and yes, we can take a new patient. This was the list that was just given to her. So I say, don't give them a number. You do that work, because for me in my right state of mind. She was really going through crisis on the side of the road in Texas. And I'm here in Fayetteville trying to help her, and I was getting frustrated and angry and mad because nobody was answering, so I can imagine what she was going through after those first 5 phone calls of having doors closed on her. So please do your diligence and do that research for them, because they may not be able, in the right mental space, to do that. Now let's take a look at one that where thoughts of suicide are present.
Say it loud.
Say it loud. I hear you say that you feel like you're a burden to others. Have you ever felt like one who seems to never be doing that again? Have you been having thoughts of suicide? Have you made a plan of what? I care about you and I cannot lose you. Would you allow me to hold them down short term while I get you some help? Okay, what would you be comfortable with? Would you like your family member to hold it? Let's call them now and ask them to come over. So they may not be comfortable with what you say is the plan, but they have to have that buy-in, so find out what they are comfortable with so that you can help to disable it. Key thing is make sure that you disable them from whatever their plan is. Again, never put yourself in danger, and you know the numbers to call, of course, if you need to get to an elevated level.
And how do you do that, like, for example, you weren't with them physically, you were, in a completely different state, how do
Yeah.
you, what's the best way to still be trying to find those resources on your phone, but also not leaving them alone?
Yeah, so a lot of those numbers are nationwide, so you can give them the numbers they can call nationwide. It's a good thing to know who's in the area. The Army Reserve, we're great for that because most of our folks don't live anywhere near each other. They know who's in the same area, just like what Bob did to reach out to the daughter, find somebody that's close to them. And you can always do those wellness checks if you at least know the city and state they live in. If you have their address, you can do that route. So that doing the health welfare check, you don't have to be in the same city or state. Yes.
That, the plan there is good. What do you do with the person who just shut down and will not respond to you verbally?
Yeah, that's where that 5 hours or thing might kick into play, because you have to show that persistence, because not everyone's gonna, this we do just for classroom.
Right.
But it's not gonna be that easy. It's not gonna be that easy. It's an investment of time that you have to give. And sometimes they won't be, and sometimes they may tell you no, but in your that gut feeling's telling you, I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I feel like there's something going on, and you have to continue that persistence, continue showing that love, and this is where that faith really comes into play. Because if I'm in an instance like that, I'm praying. Like, Lord, I don't know what to do, but you know what to do. That's your child, that's your daughter, that's your son. Give me the words and the text message or something to send to them that's gonna reach them. Because we can't reach everyone, but we do have to have that persistence. And sometimes you'll run into those walls where they're difficult and they don't want to allow you to help. Yeah. So these are different things that you may have to think about. I want you to think about this after the class. How can you disable the plan? If it's gun, if it's hanging, if it's pills. Those are the top 3 that we see. We do see also vehicles and jumping, lots of different methods, but these are the top 3 to think about, and you'll probably encounter if you're reaching out to somebody. So just start thinking in your mind, how can I disable that plan if this is one of their means that they're looking for. Okay, so now we're going to do a group exercise. Each table is going to be assigned a vignette. This one is going to be a little more in depth than the past exercises. Let's see. I'm going to get, if I can get, I'm not gonna split you up, I'm gonna just give you another piece of paper. Okay, so this is what you're gonna have. Each of you are getting these vignettes right here, and I'm gonna read them so that each of the other tables can know what you're gonna be working on. I want you to answer the questions as a group and practice working on what you've seen as far as that 3-step method to asking. So these are the vignettes that you're gonna have. We have 22-year-old Chad. Chad attends a Wednesday night service, young adult service. He's usually very active in the group. Tonight he's been very quiet. One of the leaders asked him what's wrong, and Chad replied, "My boyfriend broke up with me and I don't have anything to live for." So one of your tables, this is gonna be your scenario you're gonna work on is Chad. You can ask your leaders right here. Next scenario we have is backwards. Danielle, 24-year-old Danielle, has 2 children, has never been married. She's pregnant with another child. The father of her baby is married. He broke up after finding out she was pregnant. Danielle said that he promised her he would leave his wife because their marriage was only on paper. She asked for prayer. She wants God to bring him back to her. She said that she does not want to live without him and will kill herself if he does not come back. That's 24-year-old Danielle. Pastor, you got that one? Next one we have is 78-year-old John. 78? Not him. Where did John go? Oh my God, that's in his paper. 28-year-old Matthew. Okay, Matthew was a college athlete. He grew up in your church. He tore his ACL during a baseball game and was given strong pain medication. He's been addicted to pain pills for 4 years. Last week he took his grandmother's pain pills. She was upset and told the church staff about it during the meeting, and he feels very ashamed. He walked into your midweek service drunk and under the influence of pills. He said he's ready to see God today. 28-year-old Matthew. Okay. Next one, that's 78-year-old John. His wife died last year. She was a member of your church for more than 30 years. John's not been to your church since his wife's death. He showed up to your Bible study this week and asked you questions about doing funeral services. He asked if you'd make sure his family could hold a funeral at the church even though he's not been attending for more than a year. You asked him who the funeral service would be for. He told you that it was for his funeral. He asked if the church would allow a funeral for someone who has died by suicide. Y'all got that one? Next one is Jada. Jada was your youth leader at your church before going off to college. Jada came to church while on her summer break. She came to the altar for prayer. She shared that she was at a party and was very intoxicated. She was raped and is pregnant. She scheduled an abortion in 2 days and she wants prayer. She said she would rather die than keep the baby. 23-year-old Jada. Y'all got that? Okay, and let me see, I need to get, who didn't I get one to? Oh, y'all. You know what, can each of you join the table? Sure. Because you guys all have great experience. Let's have you join one of the tables. Okay, so you guys have about 5 minutes to talk this through. How can you implement the 4 R's with Jada? Because with all of your cases, you already know what the red flag is. There's always a contact. Thank you.
Yes, 28-year-old Matthew was a college athlete in your church. He tore his
just keep going. I will jump in and help you along the right road if I feel that you're not.
Yeah, but he's already halfway there. Himself. Yeah, it wouldn't take much more. I don't know, medical students. No one did anything. He went home. Well, that's what I'm saying, like, I don't know how much, you know, it's not a busy scenario, but what if he's halfway there, like his physical system, and it wouldn't take much more.
So, think about what it said when you walked into the door, right? So, when somebody comes and says about, it's not about what substance they're on, or if they are. It's about those words. So when he walks into the door and he says, I'm ready to leave God. Whether he's on any that's the thought he's having, whether it's just because we want to make sure that he is safe. Training that I did, it was what we're doing in the training that Kim does with people. Before this training is safe.
And a lot of times we listen to respond more than
And if he says yes, we would I'm just gonna
So now you have.
because the longer you just right, so sometimes, and I remember saying this, I went on this year first year. And I was in teach you're not gonna look up your paper and then, one second, I gotta look up what the next step is, it's not a natural thing. That would be a bit something. Well, and then this is gonna be the one, so when we're looking at the scenarios, all these things. So let's talk about the scenario. What would you do? I would have I'm out. And I said, I wanna meet God today. I'm just doing it.
Make sure that you all talk about reinforcements to help that person.
Okay, yeah, it doesn't matter why I feel it. The fact is that you feel it, right? Now it's changed me. So, Matthew, why don't you? Let's say that that's true. Let's say that.
Like, don't make a problem out of it. That's how I would feel. Right. You don't let me know. You can't meet my needs, forget it. I'm out of here.
Right.
You know?
That's fantastic. So you have questions. That's why you're asking them. They're probably gonna say yes.
Okay, so we'll have one more minute for you all to kind of capture all of your thoughts on this one.
Making sure that Matthew gets and how this is. Sometimes that means we have to ask you your comfortable with something, right? Are you comfortable with the process? If they say no, say no.
take those pieces of paper with you or take a picture of it. If it's something you wanna kinda work it through as a homework assignment later, or just kinda for your own knowledge. Definitely, good information. So I'm gonna hear one from each table. This is what I wanna hear from you. What was the most difficult part about your scenario and trying to find a resource for, or to address? We'll start with you all here. Yours, yeah. Was there anything you could do good?
What have you?
Made her mind up to take this other action and it takes that rather die than baby that she already made the approach. Navigate that
Challenging one. Okay. Yeah, so that can be, so there, the scenario they had was of the young lady that said that was raped and pregnant and is gonna have the abortion in 2 days, so it wasn't difficult as far as the suicide part because the solution was the abortion in this instance. But then you look at the faith-based community and oftentimes the faith-based community may not be able to stand beside her and say, okay, this is an option. So you have that dynamic of life, death, as well as the suicide. So definitely, interesting one to have a conversation about. Let's go to this table right here. You guys, what was the most difficult thing with your scenario? Or the key discussion point you guys have?
Ours was on, Chad being at church, being very active, and then not being active, and then the problem was that he and his boyfriend broke up, and he didn't have anything left to live for. And I think probably the thing he said, the hardest thing was probably the same thing with him is putting his physical needs before our spiritual needs.
Our personal beliefs and being open-minded with, and trying to, thinking with his issue.
Yeah, absolutely. You gotta put the faith on the back and address the person that's in front. And that can be difficult for faith-based. So that's what's needed in this moment. Let's go ahead and hear it, ladies, what you come up with.
Ours was 28-year-old Matthew, torn muscle, no longer a sports hero, took his grandmother's pills. She notified the church. He was embarrassed, and he walks into a midweek service drunk, under the influence. And the most important thing we realize is that he said he's ready to see God today. So the fact that he verbalized that is hopeful, because if he was going to do something, not to minimize, I was just going to say, if he was going to do something he was really serious about it, he wouldn't have walked through a church service. He may have just did it, but it doesn't mean he's not serious about it, but maybe it signifies hope. So if he walks through a door, cars in the driveway, people in the building, he's that's an open door for him to receive help.
Yeah.
Am I right? That's how it kind of feels.
I wonder how many churches would see a person walk in like that and they get the security team to escort
Right.
them out because they're drunk.
Right.
They're coming in our church drunk or under the influence. So that's another thing right there where the churches have to understand, okay, are our doors open only to us, or are we truly allowing anybody in here in any state to provide them what they need? So, yeah.
Jesus went in.
That's why it's important to have an argument in church. Yeah, so that's, anybody should be able to walk. Absolutely. Okay, let's go back here. What was the most, key thing y'all discovered during your scenario? You guys had the, senior gentleman.
The key, or the hardest part that we said was, having that kind of conversation with somebody who is a senior, you would hope that they're not, but, sitting down with 78-year-old John or Mr. Barfield or whoever it is in our congregation and having to have those tough conversations because of their senior role. But then, the important thing is reiterate, Mr. John, what we're hearing you say is that you want to hurt yourself, and then, do you have a plan? And, before, so treating him the same
address that, and that's because you guys have this, we're talking about it and hearing it in this one, but I encourage you to go out and do that in the churches too.
And then we talked about it's important to have, just try to ask him some good times while trying to get somebody help there to, have them relive some of the good times and good memories and share those. To try to get them to kind of come back a little bit while we're actively trying to get somebody to help them.
Okay, good.
Okay. So
And,
we
and y'all are a group, so you can continue this discussion at after class. I like it. Okay, let's go here. What did you guys have?
We had 24-year-old Danielle who was pregnant by a married man who said that he would leave his wife for her, and then he did not, and so she said, I'm gonna end it if he doesn't come back. And so the hardest part, I think, verbalized was not pressuring her to do a certain thing or make a certain choice. She's pregnant with a third child. We were thinking about saying, well, what about your 2 children you already have, the child you're about to have? But trying not to put that pressure on her either to make her harm herself. So I think that was one of the harder things. But to try to scale back and say, well, why do you feel like your value comes from having this relationship with this man? Trying to get back to the history of any kind of trauma that that caused her to feel like her worth comes from a relationship with this man.
Okay. All right. A lot of things to think about with these scenarios. And you guys did a great job. I want to show you this last one up here on the screen. This is 18-year-old Cassidy. Cassidy went to the altar at her church for prayer. She had same-sex attraction and said she didn't want to feel that way. She wasn't sure what to do. The person that prayed for her made her feel like she was a bad person. They told her that if she follows her feelings, she'd be living in sin, going straight to hell. It's kind of what they say. She left the altar feeling like she was destined for hell. Her mother noticed a change in her. Cassidy refused to go to church anymore. The next month, Cassidy attempted suicide. Her mother did not ask the church for support because she felt they were the reason for her daughter's attempt. This one right here is not a scenario. This one is a true scenario. And that shows how a lot of people can get church hurt. People that come to an altar, you guys have spoken about it quite often, about people feel ashamed or maybe they don't feel like they're going to accept what they're coming to the altar for or asking for help for. This can be the result of it, is that you turn them away from church, you turn them away from God. And a lot of people have problems with church because of these types of actions. So it's important that when it comes to suicide prevention that we're looking at the person first and putting our faith on, hold it on your shoulder, but don't throw it at them. Let them feel comfortable to speak to you in anything that they have. Okay, so the final thing we have is post-vention care, which is after a suicide. I told you who my website is, and there's a board back there. You can take a picture of it. And there's also a business card you can take. I speak about the grief care packages, and someone asked me about it. This is what they look like. One of them looks like. There are many different. This is not the military one, but inside of this book, thing right here, we have, this one's a book on suicide, when death comes unexpectedly, losing someone close. Another one, experiencing grief. We have a couple of different books that we give. If they're faith-based, we have some faith-based option to give them as well. We give you a journal because writing does something to the brain. It really helps you through that grief process. We give you a pen to start that writing, as well as this one's a little card that says, those we love don't go away. They walk beside us every day, unseen, unheard, but always near, still loved, still missed, and very dear. And it gives you a little pin that you can wear on your shirt. So if we know more about that person, we'll put other items in here, but I encourage you that if you have somebody with a loss, you can buy them flowers. They're probably going to die in about a week. Or you can buy them something like this that they can take and carry with them for a very long time and help them through that grief process. I say don't call me when you need it. Get it ahead of time, just like you were talking about, having one at your church. Get one, have them at your church, so if you have somebody you need to minister to that has a suicide loss, you have something there. And it shows a statement for your church, too, to say, hey, we have packages here to address suicide, instead of shunning them and not speaking about it at all. Okay, and we get to our final faith-based suicide prevention. It's the same as a standard. We did some additional conversation, but when it comes to faith-based, there's no different way to go about it. Continue to go about it the same way that you would with anyone else, and put your faith on your shoulder while you're doing it. There is a place for prayer, and if that person asks for it, by all means give it to them, but just don't try to force the Bible or religion on them, because at that moment they just need you to be that listening ear. For more information, you got our website over there. I'm not going to go over that one again. And we get to Finally, going the extra mile. It's never crowded. Just go that extra mile. The extra mile is you showing up here today, on your Saturday morning to spend it doing suicide prevention, so thank you. And up next we have a panel discussion.
I know we were supposed to cut off at 12,
Yeah.
so, we're just gonna go over a few things.
Stay. We can, if they, whatever they want. You can come here. I think we'll yeah, we can let each panel speak.
So, one of the things I want to make you aware of, so in Cumberland, we've actually formed a suicide prevention group. We have a lot of community partners. We're starting to put together these suicide prevention toolkits because I think these are really important. So it's got the gun lock in it, it's got a box to lock the medications. Kim talked about the med disposal, that kit's in here. Narcan's in here because sometimes people overdose as accidentally or intentionally. And then other different fidget toys, a journal, like she said, the whole writing piece is important. So that's one thing. I think Joe passed around these sheets at every table. These are resources that you actually can put in your bulletins on Sunday. I mean, think about if every church started putting 988 in there. I heard people say today they hadn't heard of 988. So we find that everywhere we go. So that's an important thing. That connection and support groups are really important. So those are just some good resources. One that I use a lot and I think is really important. Not everybody is ready to quit using substances, and like Jeff said earlier, we have found a lot of people with addiction issues who have suicidal ideation or have made attempts. So they're not always ready to quit. Never use a lone hotline. They call that and somebody stays on the phone with them while they use. If that line goes silent, they send 911. So it's a way to keep people alive, and I'm really big on harm reduction and keeping people alive because sometimes you have to keep them alive till they're ready for the help, right? So those are just some resources for you. The Alcohol Drug Council of North Carolina, Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, they help try to get people into treatment. So that's a resource even for the faith community. If somebody walks in today and says, I won't help, what do you do? How many of you, when somebody in church has had a medical issue, I just had this, I was on the phone a while ago with this. Yeah, somebody's had a medical issue, they come home from the hospital, what do? We take them that casserole, right? We take that food. Do we do that when somebody gets out of the hospital for a suicide attempt or for a mental health issue? No. So hopefully, and I hear people tell me that they're not really comfortable, they don't know what to say. Hopefully this allows you to feel more comfortable and take that casserole with them too. They need that support, like, tremendously. So I always talk about the casserole because, I grew up in the church community where my mama cooked for everybody that was sick physically, but not with the mental health issues. So, and then September the 14th, Jeff and his group at Broken Chains are going to be hosting a ride for tomorrow. So it's not just motorcycles, it's cars too, Jeeps. We're trying to get the Jeep community. But it's a day to come learn about resources too. So we'll have some of these resource partners there. The proceeds that day will actually go to One Common Bond because I'm telling you, this work is huge. I've heard too many families tell me they have to clean up their loved one after that, and no family should have to do that. So I'm on a big mission to make sure, to prevent, but if that doesn't happen, that those families don't have to clean up their family member's body. And I really appreciate what Kim does and the grief. I mean, I get these grief kits, when I find out about one and we give it to them. But, yeah, really just post the 988, get the word out about that. Jeff and them have created a patch, so we've got bikers all over the United States now wearing suicide prevention 988 patches that say you matter. Did everybody sign in? Jamie says no. Make sure you sign in. Alana needs this data for her grant. And then I don't know what y'all want to do with. You have something you want to say?
Just that for those of you who are interested, there are other suicide prevention trainings as well out there. Kendra, there you are. Kendra does assist training, which is a 2-day training, an amazing training that is a lot more in depth than where Kim had to fly through her training so quick today, but there are other trainings available. I'm one of those people, I want to know it all, so that I can be more informed when somebody does walk in my door and I have to do, suicide crisis intervention. Knowledge is power when it comes to this stuff, and the more that you know, the more comfortable you'll be with it. So if you guys are interested in that, let us know. We'll be more than happy to schedule those for you as well.
If anybody wants to join the suicide prevention collaborative initiative, more than happy to have people. If we wanna come back another day and do that panel, like that's an option. I mean, we're here to be support for you guys and to provide that education. That's, the more people that we can educate and go out and tell others, the better, and hopefully we save lives, right? So.
Kendra, would you mind sharing the event, that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Kendra Danzer. I do work at the VA here in Fayetteville in suicide prevention. So if you guys do have a veteran that you're working with or a family member who is concerned about a veteran, I consider myself access in a very big system. So please reach out to me if you want gun locks for any of your churches or any crisis line materials. I'm happy to bring that to you guys also. We are hosting an event in Fayetteville at Nana in their student center on September 13th in the evening. It is a seated dinner. It's free to everyone in the community. And we have survivors of suicide, folks who work in suicide prevention, who actually we have 2 speakers, and then we have a panel discussion for the evening, and there's some resources around the room afterwards. It's a very powerful event where folks can actually hear stories that people have experienced and their resiliency through those difficult moments. It's all about providing hope, and Kim will be there, and I know that Alana and Tara have attended in the past as well. So if you're interested in that, you can shoot me an email and I can send you the flyer for that. But it is free and open to the community as well. And again, consider myself access for anything that you will need related to veterans and getting them connected to care.
What's your contact information?
Yes, so my name is Kendra.Danzer, DANZER, @va.gov. And even if the veteran is not here locally, I can connect you to whoever that coordinator is in that state or locality.
Is that a bit Fort Liberty or?
It's in Fayetteville at Nana Church, off Cliffdale.
On Cliffdale, yeah.
The flyer will be, if you go to that website tomorrow, the flyer will be on there. It's on our Facebook page, but it's not on our web page right now, but if you go there, I'm gonna post it on there too, if you wanna,
And then
see when
there's
the
another event, right, Kendra? You guys have Strikeout Suicide.
Yes, and on September 6th at the Woodpecker Stadium, we're also doing Strikeout Suicide Night. So there will be tons of mental health resources. They're making it larger than they have in the past. Normally it's just kind of been for active duty military and smaller organizations for post-vention and prevention, but they're making it a bigger mental health event. There'll be veterans and suicide survivors that are throwing out first pitches and that kind of thing. So it's just a great way for the community to come together and strike out stigma as well. And that's on September 6th.
So, real quick, everybody should have gotten some Narcan. Just like to make sure people know how to use it. I took it out of the box and hold this corner back because when you really need to use it, your fine motor skills actually decrease. But this is really easy. It's basically like using Afrin. Everybody's familiar with that. You just hold, put your fingers up at the top, the red plunger, you put it in one nostril, shove it up in there twice, and press that little red. Sometimes people overdose as a suicide attempt. Sometimes it's accidentally. I mean, sometimes seniors forget they've taken their narcotics and they're still hurt and they take another one. So sometimes kids get a hold of their finger like a feel that they didn't know, right? I mean, young kids, they found it on the floor. You know what kids do? They put stuff to their mouth. So I encourage everybody to keep Narcan handy. You never know when you might need it. And be another way to save a life.
If they're passed out, does that work? You still use it? If they're passed out, unconscious?
If it's related to an opioid overdose, then yes, this can still work. So,
Can you say?
and the thing is, like, it doesn't matter if it was an opioid, this is not gonna do anything different to me. So,
I was just gonna say, can you speak to it's not gonna harm them too, or the even the Good Samaritan piece, like, right?
yeah, so basically, I mean, this is not gonna do any harm to them if you give it to them and it wasn't opioid related overdose.
No, I was just wondering if they were unconscious, I mean, or are they able to inhale that? Will they-
Still, it actually actually absorbs into those mucous membranes.
Okay.
Something else I'd add, if you can and you feel comfortable, if you know about the recovery position, put them in the recovery position, because it just tends to help if they tend to vomit or aspirate on something, it decreases that ability. If you need training in that, seek your local Red Cross, your local Boy Scout agency, or American Heart Association, you can do that training.
Still call 911 even if you use it, right? That's important. I wanna say thank you for hosting this today, I really appreciate it. So, this is our first one, that's why we still are working on this timing thing, we probably need 4 hours next time.
This is great.
But did people find this helpful?
Yes.
Yeah, cause sometimes I think we just miss that faith piece of it with this topic, so. I appreciate all you do.
I just wanna say, Pastor Trent, it is very, like, your whole group is just very brave. Thank you guys for doing this. I know a lot of the questions up there were like, faith leaders, so it's really great that you guys are doing this. I know it's a lot of pressure, but you're not gonna know the impact you have. You might not even know that you saved someone from suicide, so I really appreciate you all being willing to do this, and you as a church, and being willing to lead the cause, because it's really, really awesome.
And can I say one more thing, just to kind of piggyback off of that? I know that everybody who's gone through this training today is like, oh, but what if I can't do it? What if I say something wrong? I promise you that if somebody is suicidal and you sit them down and you talk to them, even if you use the wrong words, they're still gonna appreciate you because you're listening, right? So don't be too hung up on, oh, I said something wrong, right? Just correct it and keep going, right? Be honest, be open, and communicate, and be willing to listen.
And if you think this stuff is not real, while we were sitting in this class, so part of the reason I kept getting up, is there was a Facebook post from one of our Broken Chains members that said, wish I was dead. So when you think this is not real, it is another state. So, I take that very seriously, even when I'm not sitting in here, right? So, I have to do with that. But it's important, like she said to me, thank you for caring, right? It's nice to know that somebody cares. So, this stuff is very real. Social media, I see more and more of it, and, Kim did a great job there, thank you for that.
Great job.
Great community partners that have a passion for this work, and I appreciate all of you. Making it part of your Saturday to be here. I know that there will be resources, so if y'all need anything, reach out to Pastor Trent, Kim, we'll get you what you need.
Another round of applause for Kim. My volunteers, and for all of you for participating. Some of y'all came a long way to be here today, and so we greatly appreciate you doing that. I think in Baptist life sometimes we're so much on the truth side of things that we miss the love. And we want to be like Jesus, who is full of grace and full of truth. Be able to have that love and truth and hold those intentions together. And I think this helped me to be able to do that as a pastor. I pray it helped my people to be able to do that with our members here and with our community, with people who may come in the door who need Jesus and they need love. And so let me just close this in prayer, and in this time y'all are free to stay and mingle and take some cookies home and all that good stuff. But thank you guys again for being here. Thank you for your willingness to listen and to want to be equipped to help others to live, because life matters. Life matters. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, God, I just thank you for Miss Kim. I thank you for Miss Tucker. I thank you for our first responders who are here, and our church leaders who are here represented. God, I thank you for, Lord, just everyone who was here to listen and to learn how to listen better, how to ask better questions, and God, to be able to reach someone before it's too late, before they take their own lives. God, I thank you that Jesus suffered. He knows what it's like to suffer. We don't have a God who cannot sympathize with our weakness, for he was tempted in every way just as we are. God, forgive us as church people trying to put on a perfect facade for ourselves and for the world, God, when you see right through it. you see who we really are, and we're saved by grace through faith, not by works that any man could boast. We're not saved by any good thing that we can do. We're saved by what you have done in your Son, Jesus Christ, and for his sacrifice on our behalf. So God, thank you for the good news of the gospel. Thank you for equipping us to be able to reach others so that we can share the good news of the gospel, that there is hope, there is life outside of suicide, outside of depression, outside of anxiety. There is joy unspeakable. There is love and peace that comes from the Father. Thank you, Lord, for all of our partners here today. As we go out, help us to see those red flags, but to meet them with love and compassion and to say, hey, I know there's a better way for you. I'm here for you. You're not alone. Lord, help us to do that. Help us to be that. Help us to stand in the gap for those who think there's no other way. We love you, Lord. Thank you for being our way to new life. In Jesus' name I pray.